Chapter 88. On the first peak of the windmill, everyone dispersed. Hung was left at the first peak by Sumo, happily following eldest senior brother. The sixth senior brother and the eighth senior brother also returned to their respective mountain cave. Accompanied by second senior brother, fifth senior brother, and seventh senior sister, Sumo headed straight for the ninth peak of the wind wheel. Sumo was already quite proficient in controlling the wind. After a quarter of an hour, Sumo could see the ninth peak of the windmill in the distance. Its peak was like a sword, pointing straight to the sky. The ninth windwheel peak is the highest of the 9 windwheel peaks. Su Yike looked at the ninth summit and his eyes were filled with emotions. It's a pity that the ninth summit hasn't had a true master for far too many years. Second senior brother and seventh senior sister didn't say anything, but judging from their expressions, Sumo was afraid that they were feeling the same way. As they spoke, the three of them had already landed on the ninth peak of the wind wheel. Sumo could not help but furrow her brows. He already felt that eldest senior brother's first peak of windmill was extremely dilapidated. However, compared to the ninth summit, the first summit could be considered as a holy land, because the ninth summit was basically a barren mountain. There were practically no roads, and weeds grew everywhere. A little further away, many of the surrounding vegetation had actually withered. Little junior brother, don't be fooled by this appearance. The ninth peak of the wind wheel is the first peak of the wind wheel lineage. Second senior martial brother said slowly, however. His spiritual chi is all locked in his cave abode. That's why it's in such a state of decline. Sumo nodded. At the same time, his divine sense spread out. There was indeed a slight fluctuation of spiritual aura in the ninth summit, but it was hidden and did not show itself. It seemed that what second senior brother said was true. The three of them passed through the weeds and arrived at Sumo's cave. In front of the Immortal's cave, there was actually a spiderweb. From the looks of it, it had been many years since anyone had come here. It was like a dust-covered historical site. However, on the stone wall above the cave, there were 4 ancient characters engraved, Windmill Universe. The 4 words were simple and unadorned, and the strokes were like dragons. It was impossible to estimate how long it had been written. If it wasn't for the fact that the person who wrote it had a trace of a mortal will, it would have fallen off long ago. According to the legends of the Windwheel sect, this cave was the cultivation ground of the first generation of the Windwheel sect. Su Yike said, "Windmill Universe." Sumo's heart sank. It seemed like entering this cave to cultivate represented a kind of responsibility towards the windwheel lineage. Little junior brother, 15 kilometers southeast of this peak is my 7th peak. That's the peak closest to you, and it's the most convenient for me to get there. Second senior brother's mountain is 100 miles east of you. As 7th senior sister spoke, she took out 2 jade slips. One of the black jade slips had the word wind carved on it. The other was an ordinary cave-dwelling jade slip. The windwheel lineage has a formation to protect them. It is formless and formless. If one wasn't a windmill person or had no one to lead them, it would be extremely difficult to enter the windmill mountain. This windwheel jade slip will allow you to come and go as you please. 7th senior sister handed the black jade slip to Sumo and said, "At the same time, this jade slip also contains the coordinates of the Windwheel 9 peaks and some miscellaneous information. Little junior brother, you have to take a good look at the coordinates of the Windwheel 9 peak. There are many mysteries inside," Su Yike reminded with a faint smile. "This white jade slip is the jade slip to open the Windwheel Universe cave. It has always been kept by me, and now it finally has an owner. Once you enter the cave dwelling's formation will be activated. The Windwheel 9th peak will naturally come back to life." 7th senior sister handed the jade slip to Sumo solemnly and waved her hand lightly. Whoosh, a gust of spirit wind blew past. The Windwheel Universe cave had been completely renewed, and there was a hint of celestial charm to it. "Little junior brother, open the cave dwelling," Seventh senior sister said. Sumo sank his divine sense into the jade slip and opened it. From now on, he would be the owner of this cave dwelling. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the entire windwheel ninth peak seemed to be shaking. That sound gave Sumo a fright, because when he opened the mountain gate cave dwelling, there was absolutely no such process. Second senior brother, fifth senior brother, and seventh senior sister looked calm. It seemed that they already knew about this situation. The entrance of the Windwheel Universe Cave is a huge rock that weighs 50,000 kilograms, and it hasn't been opened for a long time. Once it's activated, the rumbling sound is natural, and it won't happen in the future, seventh senior sister explained. Only then did Sumo feel at ease. Otherwise, he would think that some divine beast had come out of its cave. The three of them entered the cave dwelling. First, there was a tunnel, and then it led to a large cave dwelling. Compared to the cave dwelling at the mountain gate, that cave dwelling was like heaven and earth. That was the feeling of a thatched cottage turning into a villa. This cave dwelling has a total of 1 main cave and 3 auxiliary caves. Apart from that, there are also alchemy rooms, scripture pavilions, weapon refinement caves, and so on. You can take your time to look around in the future. Seventh senior sister said, "This is the best cave dwelling in our windwheel lineage." Yes, yes. Sumo nodded repeatedly. He was a little dumbfounded. Although the entire cave dwelling was empty, Sumo still felt extremely excited. It was not an exaggeration to say that the windwheel lineage had the best cave dwelling per capita. This was a mansion. More importantly, Sumo could already feel traces of spirit chi surging in the cave dwelling. Ever since Sumo opened the cave dwelling, the entire ninth peak of Windwheel seemed to be slowly recovering. "All right, little junior brother, I've arranged the cave dwelling for you. We'll leave now. Today, you should familiarize yourself with the situation of the ninth peak. Tomorrow, come to the second peak of Windwheel to find me," second senior brother said. "All right. Thank you, second senior brother, fifth senior brother, and seventh senior sister." Sumo bowed. "You can contact anyone in Windwheel with the jade slip of Windwheel. If there's anything, don't be careless," Suyike said. "You can even crush the jade slip at critical moments. We'll be there in an instant. Little junior brother, you can look for me for anything on Windwheel Mountain." Seventh senior sister also said, "I'm the closest to you and will come often. If there's any problem, you must tell me. Also, the faction has given you a lot of rewards. You must use them wisely. Don't be greedy and advance rashly. If your foundation is not stable, it will be difficult for you to attain the great Tao in the future. Understand? Senior sister, if I find out that you've been using elixirs indiscriminately, I can take back your things at any time. Do you believe me?" The two senior brothers and senior sister were chattering. Sumo was hesitating. Looking again, the seventh senior sister flipped her hand, and the 2 storage bags awarded by the sect were actually in her hands. Sumo was completely dumbfounded. What kind of technique was this? He recalled Shin Lang's words about the godly thief on Windwheel Mountain. However, he did not expect it to be so godly. Those were the items in his storage bag. He did not feel anything at all. The storage bag had anti-theft functions. How did seventh senior sister do it? "Here. I'll return it to you." Seventh senior sister smiled, but her smile was too ugly. "Thank you, seventh senior sister." Sumo broke out in a cold sweat as he took the storage bag. Seventh senior sister's skullduggery was too amazing. However, Sumo completely understood seventh senior sister's instructions. "Seventh senior sister, please teach me. What kind of technique is this?" At this moment, Sumo's eyes lit up. Because if he learned it, he would not lack resources in the future. He could get whatever he wanted. Little junior brother, we'll pass on our techniques to you in the future. Don't worry," seventh senior sister said. "That's great." Sumo imagined that he would have skullduggery in the future. However, he suddenly thought of something. "Oh yes, seventh senior sister, I have a pearl here for you to keep." With that, Sumo took out the brownish-yellow pearl from the storage bag. Chapter 89. Soul Gathering Pearl. Seventh senior sister Bai Yifeng held the pearl and sneered, "Little junior brother, the people who chased you were probably after this pearl, right? It's not an ordinary thing." "I think so," Sumo replied. Then, he told her what happened that day. Yellow ancient altar. Earth wheel? Seventh senior sister raised her eyebrows slightly. "Seventh junior sister, what kind of array does this soul-gathering pearl belong to?" Suyike asked. "This soul-gathering pearl, also known as soul detention pearl, can swallow living souls and summon dead souls. It's an extremely powerful magic treasure for setting up arrays. However, that kind of array should have been lost for a long time, and..." Seventh senior sister glanced at second senior brother. At this moment, second senior brother's eyes flashed a touch of surprise. As the think tank of Windmill Mountain, Du Shuxing obviously knew what kind of array it was. "What kind of array?" Suyike asked. "Five-wheel array." Second senior brother's expression changed slightly. "Five-wheel array?" Suyike's expression also changed. "Isn't that the five-wheel forbidden array that has been lost for tens of thousands of years? Even seventh junior sister can't set it up?" "Yes, that is indeed the five-wheel forbidden array," seventh junior sister said thoughtfully. "With what I have learned, no one in the five wheels is worthy of my attention. But I definitely can't set up the five-wheel forbidden array, and I don't even know about it. Because in the five-wheel forbidden array, it is a forbidden technique that has long been destroyed. Moreover, it was destroyed by the founder himself." Seventh junior sister doesn't know about arrays? Sixth senior brother seemed to take a deep breath. Listening to their conversation, Sumo knew that seventh senior sister wasn't only a godly thief, but also a master of arrays. Secondly, she knew about the so-called five-wheel forbidden array. That pearl really had a background. Someone set up a five-wheel array outside the five wheels. Suyike thought of the mission area on the Black Jade slip and couldn't help but feel terrified. That was because it seemed to have formed five directions. Then, wouldn't the entire five wheels be in one big array? Du Shuxing, Suyike, and Bai Yifeng looked at each other. They all knew that this was a serious matter. However, even Bai Yifeng knew very little about the specific situation of the five-wheel formation. "Little junior brother, leave this pearl with me for now. You can cultivate in peace. We'll take care of everything else," seventh sister said to Sumo in a hurry. "We'll go first." Sumo didn't ask any more questions and nodded in agreement. Then, he sent his three senior brothers and senior sisters out of the cave. However, second senior brother actually turned around and said something very solemn. "Little junior brother, I'll be waiting for you at the second peak tomorrow morning. Don't be late for class." "Huh? Second senior brother, don't worry." Sumo groaned inwardly. Cultivation was cultivation, why did she have to attend classes? It seemed that the matter of the soul-gathering pearl was not big enough. Otherwise, shouldn't they be taking a break? Behind them, second senior brother and the other two left on the wind. However, they did not return to their own peak. Instead, they headed straight for the first peak of the Windmill Peak. Sumo didn't care so much. At this time, he found that the entire first peak was no longer barren. The weeds had disappeared, and the dead vegetation was slowly recovering. Sumo thought to himself, "I actually have a whole mountain. This is so exciting. In 2 days I should get Bai Lai here." However, he is not a windmill disciple, so he can't stay for a long time, but at least for 2 days. Good brothers, share weal and woe together. The first person Sumo thought of was Bai Lai. At the same time, Sumo couldn't wait to return to the cave residence. First, he wanted to see the cave residence. Second, he wanted to see the storage bag given by the sect. This was enough to make him excited. Just now, He hoped that his 3 senior brothers and senior sisters would leave as soon as possible. Sumo quickly returned to the cave residence. 1 main and 3 auxiliary caves, a total of 4 big caves. Elixir room, scripture pavilion, refining cave, etc. Sumo walked inside and outside. Spacious and comfortable. Although it looked empty, except for some stone tables, stone chairs, and stone beds, there was almost nothing else. In the future, when Hung came back, he would be able to have his own cave residence. This was simply too generous. More importantly, the spirit energy here was extremely abundant. Although the spirit energy in this cave residence was not as good as the soul storage altar cave residence that Sumo cultivated in before, it was 5 to 6 times more than the cave residence at the mountain gate. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the result with half the effort. This was the essential difference between the inner sect and the outer sect. The spirit energy on Yangzhen Peak was probably concentrated in a few important cave residences, and the spirit energy in other places was extremely thin. But the windmill sect was different. They used 1 peak to support 1 person. How could it be the same? After understanding this, Sumo suddenly felt that the windmill sect was actually the best inner sect. But why was it so weak? Strange. However, he could feel that his senior brothers and senior sisters were absolutely sincere towards him. This was something that Sumo valued very much. After looking at the cave residence, Sumo sat cross-legged in the main cave, took out the storage bags given by the 2 sects, and opened them separately. Wow, at that moment, it was as if an ordinary person had opened 2 shiny bags of gold. Sumo was so excited that his body trembled. There were 2 big storage bags. There were a total of 20,000 talismans, 20,000 mid-grade spirit stones, 12 foundation establishment pills, 8 nascent soul dharma treasures, and 12 foundation breaking pills. Although he already knew the number of these things, when Sumo saw them with his own eyes, he still felt a little short of breath. He took a deep breath, and then silently activated the everlasting chi. After a while, Sumo finally calmed down. At the same time, he also remembered the words of his 7th senior sister. He knew that the foundation establishment pills could not be eaten casually. They could only be eaten after reaching the 9th level of chi refinement. Otherwise, his foundation would not be stable, and it would be harmful. Therefore, Sumo first categorized those things. 20,000 talismans were indeed of little value, because those were all low-level 5-wheel talismans, which were of little significance to cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of chi refinement. Sumo stuffed them into a storage bag, ready to go to the Jubao Pavilion of the inner gate to exchange them for high-level talismans or other things needed. 20,000 mid-grade spirit stones, Sumo put them in a separate storage bag. These were his most important resources, because spirit stones could not only be used directly for cultivation, but also could be exchanged for anything. 12 foundation establishment pills and 12 foundation breaking pills. Sumo also carefully packed them in a porcelain bottle. He definitely wouldn't eat all of these pills by himself. He could keep them for Hung, or he could give 1 or 2 to others. Elixirs were even more valuable than spirit stones. Sometimes, good pills were hard to find. He could give Zhao Yunxing 1 foundation establishment pill. Sumo pondered. After all, Zhao Yunxing had given him a lot of things. 1 foundation establishment pill was enough to compare with all of them. However, many things could not be measured by value alone. He could give the foundation breaking pill to senior brother Shen Lang and any senior brother from the Windwheel faction who really needed it. Senior brother Lu always wanted it, right? He teased him for a few days. To the people around him, Sumo would never be stingy. Of course, if he could exchange some treasures from senior brother Lu, he would definitely not mind. Wasn't he a master blacksmith? He pondered as he took care of them. Sumo was definitely a person who knew how to repay kindness. At this moment, Sumo suddenly thought of Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. Ever since they helped him out, he had never met them again. Faintly, Sumo felt a sense of longing in his heart. Chapter 90. The final reward given by the sect was, of course, the 8 nascent soul-level magic treasures. In theory, if a cultivator could use a magic treasure that was 1 level higher than their cultivation level, it was already not bad. In other words, aura refining cultivators had foundation building magic treasures, or foundation building cultivators had core formation magic treasures. That way, in a battle of the same level, they would have a certain advantage. A cultivator who could possess 2 or more magic treasures that could transcend levels was already a very powerful figure. However, if they had magic treasures that were 2 or more realms higher than their own, then they would not be able to fully display the power of the magic treasure. For example, the level 9 Chi refining Slekton sect female cultivator Sumo met outside the Punishing Heart Cliff. The white bone god stunning bow she used was a nascent soul-level magic treasure, but it couldn't do anything to Shunlang, who was in the middle stage of foundation building. To be able to use magic treasures without restrictions, one had to be at least a nascent soul-level cultivator. Therefore, even though Sumo obtained those nascent soul-level magic treasures, she couldn't completely transform them into battle power. Currently, she still couldn't completely control those magic treasures. Moreover, because they were given an order, the Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel cultivators tacitly took out 4 very ordinary nascent soul-level magic treasures. Nascent soul-level magic treasures were, of course, divided into 3 grades: high, middle, and low. What Sumo obtained were actually all low-grade nascent soul-level magic treasures, but low-grade was still nascent soul-level. For Sumo, they were all good treasures. One had to know that even late-stage foundation-building cultivators might not necessarily be able to obtain a nascent soul-level magic treasure. Among the 8 magic treasures, 2 flying swords were considered useful. Aside from her mysterious broken bamboo pole, Sumo didn't have any powerful offensive magic treasures. If she had 2 nascent soul-level flying swords, then her battle power would naturally increase by a lot. In addition, there was also a Heaven Wheel Immortal Boat, which was a flying magic treasure. It was really not bad, its speed was far faster than 5 sails, and it didn't need spirit stones to activate it. Sumo liked it quite a bit. There was also an Earth Wheel Shield, which was a defensive magic treasure. With it, even late-stage foundation-building cultivators would find it difficult to kill Sumo. The other 4 magic treasures were more interesting. It was something similar to the Storm Tent. He wondered if he could use it in the future. One of them was actually a pill storage bottle. Sumo simply stored all of her pills in it. To be honest, Sumo couldn't figure out the other 2. If there's a chance, I'll ask one of the senior brothers. Sumo casually put away the 2 magic treasures. With these magic treasures, Sumo was certain. Cultivators below the foundation establishment realm were definitely no match for him. If he did it well, he would be able to contend with an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and even kill them. Anyway, after spending a lot of effort, Sumo finally sorted out these things, and her heart gradually calmed down and felt at ease. Entering the windmill meant that he had completed his goal of entering the inner sect. Sumo's next goal was to build her foundation. In fact, this goal was no longer difficult for Sumo. With the foundation building pill in his hands, his chances of reaching the foundation building realm had greatly increased. As long as he reached LV9 of Chi cultivation, foundation establishment would not be a problem for him. However, with the improvement of his realm and vision, Sumo knew that the foundation-building realm was nothing to him. In front of a strong cultivator, a foundation-building realm cultivator would instantly turn into ashes. The road of cultivation was long, and he had to cultivate steadily. That was the way to go. Therefore, after calming himself down, Sumo began to cultivate. LV7 of Chi cultivation. Now, Sumo's realm was relatively stable. His immortal Chi had also entered the second minor level. Everything was going in a positive direction. It was a quiet night. There were still 2 hours left before the appointed time with the second senior brother. Sumo opened his eyes. He had been cultivating normally that night. The spiritual energy in the Qiankuan cave was really abundant. This night's cultivation was comparable to 7 days of cultivation in the cave at the mountain gate. He felt refreshed and extremely comfortable. Sumo got up and stretched his body, then took a deep breath. Then, he turned his hand and took out the windmill jade slip that 7th senior sister gave him from his storage bag. There was a map of the windmills in the jade slip. Although 7th senior sister had already told him that the 2nd senior brother's mountain was at the easternmost part of the 9th peak, Sumo still decided to take a look. He probed with his divine sense and unfolded the map. The windmill lineage did not occupy a large area. It only occupied a radius of 700 kilometers within the 5 wheels. The 9 mountain peaks were spread out over a 700-kilometer radius. Su Yike had asked Sumo to study the coordinates of the windmill lineage. Therefore, Sumo could not help but take a closer look. The arrangement of the 9 peaks of the windmill lineage seemed to be messy, but gradually, Sumo found some clues. According to the area controlled by the windmill lineage, the entire windmill lineage formed a circular area with a radius of 700 kilometers. The 9th peak, where he was actually the center of the circle. The distance between the 9th peak and the other 8 peaks was not equal, and it was even a little messy. The closest 7th peak was less than 30 kilometers away, but the furthest 5th peak was 700 kilometers away. However, Sumo's eyes narrowed, and he had an idea. Because he suddenly realized that if all the other peaks were pushed to the orbit 700 kilometers away, then if they were connected, they would form an octagon. The 1st peak of the windmill lineage was at the westernmost, the 2nd peak was at the easternmost, the 3rd peak was at the northernmost, the 4th peak was at the southernmost, the 5th peak was at the northwest, the 6th peak was at the southwest, the 7th peak was at the southeast, and the 8th peak was at the northeast. Coincidentally, there was a peak in all directions, and the 9th peak was the center of the 8 peaks. The windmill lineage itself seemed to be a huge formation, and there seemed to be a hidden universe inside. However, Sumo still did not understand. He just had a vague feeling that it would not be a coincidence. Instead, it was a special kind of arrangement. Using the peaks as a formation, that kind of arrangement was definitely not ordinary. There must be a secret about the windmill lineage, Sumo thought in his heart. After seeing the location of the 2nd peak, Sumo put away the jade slip and directly left the cave abode. He went straight to the 2nd peak on the wind. He just hoped that he would not be late. They had not known each other for a long time, so Sumo could not figure out the 2nd senior brother's true personality. If he was late, the ruler would fall, and he might not be able to block it. The 2nd peak of the windmill was only 300 kilometers away from Sumo's 9th peak. At 7:15, Sumo had already landed on the 2nd peak. The 2nd peak of the windmill was completely different from the 1st and 9th peak. This place did not seem to be chaotic, nor was it barren. Instead, it was dense with divine qi, birds were chirping, and flowers were fragrant. It was like a fairyland. On the peak, there was a 2-story green bamboo building. It was elegant, quiet, and extremely elegant. Beside the small building, there were winding rivers and countless lotus flowers. There was even a boat anchored on the water. There were also pavilions on the water. Sumo could not help but praise in his heart, 2nd senior brother is indeed scholarly. He is really an elegant person. The scenery here was not comparable to eldest senior brother's 1st peak. At this moment, Sumo had just arrived near the small building, and he heard 2nd senior brother's chanting coming from the small building. His voice was loud and echoed continuously. She could only hear 5 wheels of wind, majestic and majestic, drinking, laughing, cursing, crazy, only I have a soul. In the dark, in the bone sect, the sky and earth collapsed, and the water was hot and deep. Chapter 91. His voice was loud and clear, and it could be heard for several miles. In the small building, Scholar Du seemed to be giving a lecture. But in fact, there were only 2 people in the entire second peak, including Sumo. Little junior brother, you're here. Not bad, you're 15 minutes early. Second senior brother's voice came from the small building. Good morning, second senior brother. Sumo was still thinking about the poem and melody that she heard just now. However, she did not dare to treat second senior brother poorly. She answered as she quickly went upstairs. On the second floor of the small building, second senior brother Du was dressed in a white robe and sitting on a bamboo chair. He looked solemn, holding a folding fan with both hands and a ruler beside him. Little junior brother, sit. Second senior brother pointed at the chair opposite him with his fan. Thank you, second senior brother. Sumo looked at second senior brother and felt a little nervous. What kind of lesson is this? One-on-one? That's too formal. In Sumo's memory, one-on-one lessons were quite expensive. Sigh. Is second senior brother addicted to being a teacher? But it's fine as long as he doesn't have to pay tuition fees. Is second senior brother thinking about the rewards from the sect like sixth senior brother? Ahem. Second senior brother deliberately coughed twice and said, Little junior brother, did you hear my recitation just now? Yes. Sumo collected her thoughts and said hurriedly, I heard it. Second senior brother is indeed elegant and refined. If the second peak of Windmill is really an immortal realm, then it must be the best. Second senior brother's recitation just now was even more pleasant to the ears, like celestial music. I'm very impressed. Sumo's flattery was very, very, very naked. However, second senior brother actually accepted it calmly, as if that was what it was all about. His serious expression became more serious at first, then relaxed slightly. Yes, little junior brother is indeed smart. You understood the essence of it just by watching and listening. Second senior brother nodded. Sumo also accepted it calmly without blushing. At that moment, if there was a third person present, that person would probably blush. These 2 people were indeed from the same sect. Little junior brother, do you know what I'm chanting? Second senior brother asked. Sumo doesn't know. Sumo was definitely a cooperative student. She knew what she should know and what she shouldn't know. Only such a teacher's lessons would be interesting. Otherwise, if you knew it, how could teacher be so smug? Second senior brother, please advise me. Sumo's eyes were filled with a thirst for knowledge and sincere expectation. That was the teacher's favorite gaze. Sure enough, second senior brother nodded with satisfaction, and his serious face eased a little. Little junior brother, it doesn't matter if you don't know. Today, second senior brother will tell you about it. Second senior brother glanced at Sumo. Sumo's expression remained unchanged. Second senior brother was even more satisfied. Little junior brother, I only have 1 class. Second senior brother was in a good mood. He seemed to be afraid that Sumo would feel burdened. What a pity! Sumo pretended to be disappointed. Second senior martial brother, you are knowledgeable, knowledgeable, and knowledgeable. The lecture just now was too good. Unfortunately, it's only once. The lecture just now was too good? Sumo was too shameless. Second senior brother hadn't even started to teach. Yes. Second senior brother didn't mind. Instead, he nodded solemnly. It doesn't matter. If you have any questions in the future, you can ask me anytime. I will tell you everything I know and guide you with all my heart. Cultivation has always been about learning more and asking more questions. Yes. Thank you, second senior martial brother. Sumo was overjoyed. A pair of teacher and student, and a pair of shameless senior martial brother. The atmosphere in the class between the 2 of them was simply too good. Second senior brother, who had always pretended to be serious, was now amiable. Sumo was finally not nervous anymore. Little junior martial brother, What I just recited was the secret crazy divination song of my 5 wheels. Second senior brother's expression was slightly serious, but this time he wasn't pretending. Crazy divination song? Of course, Sumo had never heard of it. However, she felt that the content was indeed a little crazy and even incomprehensible. Yes, crazy divination song. It was written by the last grand cultivator of the wind wheel lineage 10,000 years ago. Since then, the wind wheel lineage has been passed down from generation to generation. The last grand cultivator 10,000 years ago? Why is it the last grand cultivator? Sumo asked. Because, for the past 10,000 years, there hasn't been a cultivator of that realm in the wind wheel lineage. Second senior martial brother sighed. What realm? Sumo was curious. The soul transformation realm. Second senior martial brother said slowly. The soul transformation realm? Sumo gasped. Above the nascent soul realm? Of course. Second senior martial brother smiled faintly. Child cultivator, chi refinement, foundation building, core formation, nascent soul, and soul transformation. Above the nascent soul realm is the soul transformation realm. What about above the soul transformation realm? Divine tribulation. Above the divine tribulation. Immortality. What about above the immortality realm? Haha. Second senior martial brother looked at Sumo and laughed. Little junior martial brother, you've already reached the immortality realm? Since you're already immortality, what else do you want? Isn't cultivation for immortality? Sumo didn't comment, but he wasn't satisfied with second senior martial brother's answer. Was immortality really the end of cultivation? Second senior martial brother, are there any soul transformation realm cultivators in the 5 wheels? No. Second senior martial brother sneered. If there were soul transformation realm cultivators, how could the 5 wheels be so chaotic? How could the Northern Slekton sect raise their heads? Oh? Then there were many in the past? 10,000 years ago, the 5 wheels had 5 soul transformation realm cultivators. They were even close to the ancestral master's realm. What realm was our ancestral master in? The great perfection of the late soul transformation realm. Second senior martial brother's eyes were full of hope. 3 souls in one breath, soul can be real. That kind of realm is fascinating. 3 souls in one breath, soul can be real. Sumo didn't quite understand what he meant. Second senior martial brother, have you ever seen an immortality realm cultivator who has passed the divine tribulation? Sumo asked. Second senior martial brother laughed at himself. To be honest, little junior martial brother, the wind wheel is very small, and the 5 wheels is not big. In the whole Pure Land, the White Bone continent is only a corner. I haven't even seen a soul transformation realm cultivator with my own eyes, so how can I see the divine tribulation or immortality realm? That kind of earth-shattering almighty can only be found by chance. I heard that in the entire White Bone continent, the highest realm for a cultivator is the divine tribulation. There is no immortality realm. Immortality is just a legend. Second senior martial brother sighed. Divine tribulation, immortality. Sumo was silent. That kind of realm was even more out of reach for him. Second senior martial brother changed the topic. Little junior martial brother, do you know why there are no soul transformation realm cultivators in the 5 wheels? Where are the former 5 great soul transformation realm cultivators? Why? Sumo asked. Because of a catastrophe 10,000 years ago. Second senior martial brother's expression was solemn. A catastrophe 10,000 years ago? Sumo's heart stirred. Second senior martial brother, is that referring to the accident 10,000 years ago in the 5 wheels? It is said that the 5 wheels suffered heavy damage and is no longer as strong as before. Chapter 92. In a small building on the second peak of the windmill sect, second brother was telling Sumo about the past of the Five Wheels sect. Little junior brother. Second senior brother Du Shuxing held the folding fan in his hand and looked at Sumo. You're already at level 7 of the Qi refinement realm, and you're extremely talented. Foundation establishment realm is just around the corner. So, you should know a lot of things. Please tell me. Sumo said. I can only tell you what I know. Second senior brother laughed bitterly. Our world of cultivation is called the Pure Land. I don't know where it came from. The Pure Land is boundless, and the Bone Mainland is only a small part of it. It's said that there's an endless chasm outside the Bone Mainland. Only the deity Tribulation can fly. The Bone Mainland has been through millions of years and changes. After the rise of cultivators, there were many immortal sects, and there were many who flourished and withered. Five Wheels was founded 30,000 years ago, and its founder's Taoist title was Saint Wheel. His final cultivation level was Peak Late Stage Soul Transformation Realm. Saint Wheel, Peak Late Stage Soul Transformation Realm. Sumo listened quietly and didn't speak. This was the first time he heard of the founder's Taoist title. Five Wheels was located in the northwest of the Bone Mainland. It started as a small immortal sect, and later became a first-class immortal sect. Back then, Saint Wheel's founder had 5 disciples, and each of them was extremely talented. They were known as the Five Wheels' 5 disciples, and each ruled one wheel. That was the heyday of Five Wheels. They went north and made the Slekton sect submit. They went south and extended their influence to the Bone Mainland. Everyone in the Bone Mainland knew about Five Wheels. For a time, it was the most glorious. Second senior brother's eyes were filled with hope, as if he had returned to the past of Five Wheels. But, second senior brother had a pained expression. Sumo also frowned. He knew that the turning point of Five Wheels had come. The founder failed to break through the deity Tribulation. The 5 disciples, for some reason, turned against each other. In the end? Second senior brother's voice paused. In the end, what happened? Sumo asked. In the end, it caused a war. In the end, of the 5 soul transformation stage cultivators, 2 died and 3 were injured. The remaining disciples who were implicated suffered even more casualties, second senior brother said. 2 dead and 3 injured? Didn't they all die? That's for another time. At that time, the Wind Wheel Ancestor and the Fire Wheel Ancestor died in battle, while the Heaven Wheel Ancestor, the Earth Wheel Ancestor, and the Water Wheel Ancestor were seriously injured. Then, not long after, they all died one after another. Second senior brother let out a long sigh. From then on, Five Wheels could be said to have collapsed. Even though the inheritance was not severed, the 5 chakras were gradually moving away from each other, and the glory was no more. In the future, the ancestral masters would only be at the late nascent soul stage. It couldn't be compared to the past. The power of Five Wheels is only maintained in the northwest of Bones, and they are in a stalemate with the Slekton sect. Second senior brother, those who can cultivate to the soul transformation realm are naturally not ordinary people. Back then, the 5 great soul transformation ancestral masters were able to reach the stage of a great battle. Just what was the reason? Sumo asked. Second senior brother shook his head with a wry smile. This is the unsolved mystery of the 5 Wheels. Huh! Sumo was speechless. Unsolved mystery? Is this the reason why the 5 Wheels seem to be united but actually divided? There should be some speculations and clues, right? Second senior brother stood up, took 2 steps, and smiled bitterly. The 5 great ancestral masters seem to have discussed it and have a tacit understanding with each other. Within the 5 Wheels, there is no reason for it to be passed down. There are only some speculations, but I can't be sure. What speculations? The deity tribulation theory or the bloodline theory? Second senior brother frowned. Sumo didn't understand. Within the 5 Wheels there are 2 kinds of speculations. The so-called deity tribulation has two kinds of speculations. One is that the ancestral masters failed to advance to the deity tribulation because they were plotted against, and then the 5 ancestral masters suspected each other, which led to a great battle. The second is that the ancestral masters failed to advance to the deity tribulation, but left behind a treasure that could help one person advance to the deity tribulation, which led to a great battle between the 5 ancestral masters. Is this speculation credible? We can't not believe it, but we can't believe it completely, second senior brother said. These two theories can indeed explain the great battle between the 5 ancestral masters. However, I have a feeling that things aren't that simple. Then what do you mean by bloodline? Sumo said. The theory of bloodline seems a bit too complicated. Second senior brother raised his eyebrows again. Little junior brother, you haven't cultivated for long. According to the legends, the cultivators in the Pure Land realm actually have 2 cultivation methods. 2 cultivation methods? Sumo was stunned. Wasn't cultivation about cultivating hard, absorbing spirit chi, and gradually becoming stronger? However, different cultivation methods had different effects. Different resources created different cultivators. However, the essence was the same. Were there any other cultivation methods? Second senior brother saw the doubt in Sumo's eyes. Little junior brother, there is indeed another cultivation method, which is bloodline cultivation. Bloodline cultivation? Sumo's heart stirred. That's right. Bloodline. Second senior brother nodded. However, we have only heard of this cultivation method, and we don't know the specific method. Some people say that bloodline cultivation is the innate skill of the bloodline. Based on the family as a unit, they are born with a certain skill, which only needs to be activated by the cultivator at a specific time. Some people also say that bloodline cultivation is a kind of inheritance. It can only be passed down from one generation to the next. For every person who inherits it, one person dies. However, this kind of inheritance can almost completely inherit the inheritor's ability. However, no matter what it is, the inheritance of bloodline is recognized to be far better than thousands of years of cultivation. Bloodline is a shortcut to immortal cultivation, and you can reach the sky in a single step. Second senior brother's words made Sumo's heart tremble. She thought to herself, why am I not the descendant of a special cultivation family, or have a great master's inheritance? What a pity! Second senior brother, are there any families or sects with bloodline inheritance on the White Bone Land? I don't think so. Second senior brother shook his head. But, second senior brother paused and asked, little junior brother, you are not familiar with the White Bone Land, so you don't know about the 3 holy lands of the White Bone Land, right? I don't know. Sumo shook her head. In fact, second senior brother's question was nonsense. What could Sumo know? Would she need to go to class if she knew? However, Sumo cooperated with him, obediently. The White Bone Land is basically in the shape of a crescent moon, and it's divided into the south, middle, and north regions. The so-called northwest of the Slekton sect is actually the north region. However, the entire land is to the west, so people call it the northwest celestial region. The south, middle, and north celestial regions each have a holy land. However, the situation is different. Second senior brother held the fan in his hand and gently waved it. It seems that this class is not bad. At this moment, Sumo was listening very carefully. The so-called 3 holy lands are the south region's Wanhuang Temple, the central region's Immortal Void, and the north region's Holy Wheel Historical Site. Second senior brother smiled and said, don't they sound like the 3 deadly lands? Indeed. Sumo also smiled. However, since they are called the 3 holy lands, I don't think they're deadly lands, right? Haha. Little junior brother, you're right. Let's talk about the central region's Immortal Void. It's called Immortal Void because it's ethereal and hard to find. However, every 1,000 years, there will be disciples traveling the white bone land to do good and eliminate evil. Moreover, that person's cultivation level must be extremely high. How high? Sumo could not help but ask curiously. The deity's tribulation. Second senior brother smiled helplessly. When the immortal void appears, it must be the deity's tribulation. Chapter 93. When the immortal void realm appears, it must be a god tribulation. Hearing second senior brother's words, Sumo was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. Second senior brother, how powerful are deity tribulation cultivators? Once the god's test appears, the 5 wheels will be destroyed with just a lift of the hand. Second senior brother shook his head helplessly. Sumo nodded. Originally, he thought that he had reached the 7th level of chi refining in less than a year, so he was a little complacent. But now, it seemed that he was still an ant. Second senior brother continued, as for the southern region's myriad desolation temple, it's said to be located at the southernmost tip of the Bone Continent, and the surrounding 5,000 kilometers is filled with desolation and countless ferocious beasts. However, the existence of the Wanhuang Temple suppressed everything. It was said that there were only 300 disciples in the Wanhuang Temple. However, they are all above the nascent soul level. 300 or even more. Sumo grinned. How is that possible? Don't you have a cultivation boy? No chi refining, foundation establishment, or core fusion. Then how did the nascent soul appear? Hee. Second senior brother laughed. That brings us back to the previous question. Didn't you ask me if there are any clans or sects with bloodline inheritances on the Bone Continent? Is Wanhuang Temple a bloodline cultivation sect? Sumo said. Haha, I'm not sure. However, the Thousand Desolation Temple has another name, the Immortal Temple. Rumor has it that the Wanhuang Temple has 300 disciples, but they are all young, so it is also called the Immortal Temple. Bloodline cultivation, Immortal Temple. Sumo nodded. Then what is our northern region's Sacred Wheel historical site? The Holy Wheel Ancient Ruins. Sigh. Second senior brother sighed. The Holy Wheel Ancient Ruins are really a dead place. In the south of the 5 Paths Immortal Domain, there was the White Bone Ridge. The White Bone Ridge meandered for thousands of miles, and within it, there was a ruin that was less than 100 miles in radius. It was the Sacred Wheel Ancient Ruins. Its center is called Silent Death Valley. Silent Death Valley? Sumo's heart trembled violently. Fortunately, he remembered Mu Jinghong's words, otherwise he would have cried out. Didn't he walk out from Silent Death Valley? 50,000 miles away from the 5 Paths Immortal Domain. However, when senior sister Mu brought him along, it didn't seem to be that far? Could it be that senior sister Mu used some kind of special technique? Otherwise, how could a journey of 70,000 kilometers take less than half a day? Of course, second senior brother did not know what Sumo was thinking. The Holy Wheel Ancient Ruins are said to have existed together with the White Bone Continent. Legend has it that it's the remains of an immortal from the White Bone Continent. It's like a scar on the white bone. In Silent Death Valley, gods came to bury their dead and immortals came to return to silence. These 8 words were definitely not false. On the White Bone Continent, there had been divine tribulation cultivators who had entered Silent Death Valley. Unfortunately, he never came out again. None of the deity tribulation cultivators came out. Sumo deliberately asked in surprise. However, he was actually a little pleased with himself. Because, wouldn't he be more powerful than a deity tribulation cultivator? At the same time, he also pondered over the white bones he saw in the Silent Death Valley. Could they be deity tribulation cultivators? Where were they going to climb? Back then, Sumo saw 9 skeletons, but he was sure that there were more skeletons in the depths of the fog in Silent Death Valley. No cultivator has ever come out of Silent Death Valley. Therefore, Silent Death Valley became a forbidden area for cultivators, and no one dared to enter it again. Even the Holy Wheel ancient ruins on the White Bone Ridge were rarely visited. Among the 3 Holy Lands, the Holy Wheel ancient ruins was a dead place. At the same time, it was also the most powerful place. The Immortal Void Realm and the Immortal Temple had deity tribulations. However, the Holy Wheel ancient ruins was a place that even deity tribulations didn't dare to go to. Sumo nodded. However, after hearing second senior brother's words, he thought about why Mu Jinghong was outside Silent Death Valley. Sumo believed that it was definitely not a simple coincidence. It seemed that the people of 5 Wheels didn't know that Mu Jinghong went to the Holy Wheel ancient ruins alone. After pondering for a moment, Sumo asked again, "Then, second senior brother, what does this have to do with 5 Wheels? Even if the Immortal Temple is a bloodline cultivation sect, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with us." You have to put everything together. Second senior brother sat down again. Have you forgotten what the Taoist name of our founding ancestor was? Holy Wheel. Sumo said in surprise. Could it be that our founding ancestor has something to do with the Holy Wheel ancient ruins? Second senior brother shook his head. Maybe it's just a coincidence. However, according to the bloodline in 5 Wheels, our founding ancestor had a trace of the Holy Wheel's bloodline. Later, the founding ancestor of 5 Wheels fought for that drop of bloodline. Oh! Sumo finally understood. Second senior brother, these are just guesses. No one knows the real reason. Second senior brother nodded. Of course, it's also possible that the other 4 branches know some of the reasons. However, they keep it a secret and compete with each other in the dark. Second senior brother smiled. The other 4 branches don't know about the Wind Wheel faction's crazy divination song, right? Therefore, we don't know what secrets the other branches have either. However, the Wind Wheel 9 revolutions overturned the universe. He should have heard of these words. However, they may not understand the specific meaning. What's the specific meaning? Sumo asked. Haha. Second senior brother looked at Sumo meaningfully and shook his head. You'll know in the future. It's not the right time now. When is the right time? Sumo asked. When is the right time? Haha. Second senior brother couldn't help but laugh and then sighed softly. Little junior brother, the situation of the 5 Wheels is complicated and confusing. The time will be tomorrow or in another 100 years. It all depends on who can't wait. Sumo felt that his second senior brother had said something that was extremely mysterious. Now, the 5 Wheels is only maintaining an illusion of peace on the surface. In fact, each has its own way. If there weren't a few nascent soul grand ancestors keeping each other in check, I'm afraid there would have been a war. Then, what should our Wind Wheel faction do? Sumo asked. At this moment, Sumo already understood that second senior brother definitely needed her to do something after saying so much. Little junior brother. Second senior brother looked at Sumo solemnly. What can you do now? You just need to improve your cultivation. In fact, the crazy divination song left by the ancestral master already has guidance. Oh! Sumo looked at second senior brother. Drunkenness, laughter, cursing, and madness. Isn't that the state of our Wind Wheel faction? Second senior brother opened his folding fan and sneered. Little junior brother, before you got on the Wind Wheel faction, you must have heard many people's comments about us in the 5 Wheels, right? Indeed. Sumo thought of the comments and nodded with a smile. Down and out, crazy and not doing proper work. Haha. Second senior brother must have heard of those comments. He looked at Sumo and said, Little junior brother, let me tell you, if there's one faction in the 5 Wheels that is the most clear-headed, it's our Wind Wheel faction. Sumo did not speak. Instead, she waited for second senior brother to continue. Little junior brother, do you know what the mission of the Wind Wheel faction is? Second senior brother asked. What? We're not doing it for the Wind Wheel faction. We're doing it to protect the legacy. Second senior brother's expression turned stern. At that moment, Sumo felt an inexplicable power. Second senior brother did not seem to be the scholar who pretended to be serious at all. Chapter 94. Hee hee. Second senior brother seemed to know what Sumo was thinking and could not help but smile. Junior, don't think that our wind wheel sect has fewer people, but our combat power may not necessarily be inferior to the heaven wheel and earth wheel experts. Which one of our wind wheel people can't kill one of them in the five wheels sect? One day you will understand. Suemo was slightly taken aback by her words. Could the wind wheel faction really fight against over 10,000 people with just 9 people? Second senior brother, then I might be a hindrance to our windmill. I'm not good at fighting, Sumo said honestly. He knew very well how capable he was. Haha. Second senior brother closed his folding fan and suddenly felt a sense of heroism. Little junior brother, if you can't do it, then I'll give it to you. As for us windmills, we can't do it. Don't worry, we just have to work hard and cultivate. One day, we will be able to complete the 9 revolutions of the wind wheels and overturn the universe. Thank you, second senior brother. Sumo braced herself, but she had no confidence at all. At the same time, he was also pondering what exactly was the wind wheel 9 revolutions. Little junior brother, you've said so much. Actually, what you need to do now is very simple, second senior brother said again. What are you doing? Safety and cultivation. Second senior brother smiled faintly. Little junior brother, do you know who's chasing after you outside the 5 Paths Immortal domain? I don't think it's the Slekton sect. Sumo couldn't help but sneer as she recalled what happened that day. The skeleton girl outside the punishing heart cliff must be from the Slekton sect. However, later on, all cultivators should be people with 5 wheels. Otherwise, there would be no need to hide. Second senior brother said, that day, if it wasn't for Mu Jinghong's thunderous methods to suppress everything, I wouldn't have been able to kill him. I'm afraid you still have a lot of troubles ahead of you. Second senior brother, which faction is the one who wants to kill me from? From what you described, you should be an earth wheel or fire wheel practitioner. Earth wheel, fire wheel. Sumo didn't say anything, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. They wanted to kill you, except for the bead. Another possibility is that the so-called windmill 9 revolutions is because they don't want us to have 9 disciples. Second senior brother smiled coldly. They have always listed the 9th disciple of the windmill sect as a target they must kill? Windmill's 9th disciple, a must-kill target. Sumo was stunned. He had not expected this at all. Wasn't he walking into a fire pit? Second senior brother, did the 9th disciple of Windmill get killed in the past? How many did you kill? Sumo asked. Ahem. Second senior brother was non-committal and changed the topic. Little junior brother, don't worry. Since you have joined Windmill and all of us have acknowledged you as our leader, we will not let you go. Your safety is Windmill's concern. Furthermore, no matter how arrogant the various branches were, with the ancestral Soul Peak's celestial decree, they wouldn't be able to do anything to the 5 wheels. But you'd better be careful. Remember senior apprentice brother's words. First build your foundation, then move on. Junior brother, as long as you can reach the foundation establishment stage, the strength of our windwheel faction will increase by several times. Every inch you advance, the entire windwheel faction will advance by 1 foot. Do you understand? How could Sumo be at ease? But he still braced himself and replied, Okay. Don't worry, second senior brother. I will definitely work hard in my cultivation. But he felt bitter inside. What did he do to become the target of killing? This, haha. Good. Second senior brother patted Sumo's shoulder in a gratified manner. Little junior brother, the windwheel lineage belongs to you. What I told you today is just to let you know some things, but don't feel too pressured. If the sky falls, your 8 senior brothers and sisters will naturally hold it up for you. Huh? Thank you, second senior brother, Sumo said. But in his heart, he wondered if they were reliable. If they were, why did all the previous disciples die? Class dismissed. Second senior brother laughed, then turned around and disappeared from the small building. Little junior brother, I'm going to find eldest senior brother for a drink. Go back to the mountain yourself. Drink? Why didn't you bring me along? It's your first time here, and you can't even get a meal? This second senior brother is too impolite. Sumo was stunned for a while, then he slowly walked down the stairs and returned to the 9th peak. On the windwheel 9th peak, Sumo returned to his cave residence. Today's second senior brother's so-called class was enough for Sumo to digest. Sumo organized what second senior brother had said in his heart. This world of cultivation was called the Pure Land, and it was unknown how big it was. The White Bone continent was only a corner of it. It was shaped like a crescent moon, and it was divided into 3 regions: South, Middle, and North. Within each of the 3 regions, there was a holy land: Wanwang Temple, Immortal Void Temple, and Sacred Wheel Historical Site. There were 2 ways to cultivate: chi refinement and bloodline inheritance. Cultivation levels. Above nascent soul, there were soul transformation, deity tribulation, and undying realms. This broadened Sumo's knowledge. In his eyes, the cultivation world was many times larger than before. The past of the 5 wheels was even more difficult to see. The Sacred Wheel Patriarch opened the mountain, then fell. His 5 soul transformation disciples fought for no reason and fell one after another. After that, the 5 lineages were divided, and each did their own thing. In fact, they all wanted to be the strongest and suppress all the other lineages. The Windwheel lineage was for the inheritance of the 5 wheels. Was the Windwheel lineage really that special? The matter about the 5 wheels was actually a bit confusing. There were some things that second senior brother only speculated about. There were also some things that second senior brother didn't make clear. Sumo was also a bit apprehensive. Second senior brother's words were full of lies and lies. As for his current situation, it seemed to be a bit awkward. The 9th disciple of Windwheel was actually someone that the other lineages wanted to kill? Wasn't this the same as putting himself on a fire to roast? It seemed like he had to be careful. However, no matter what, second senior brother's last words were definitely not a problem. Safety and cultivation. Sumo understood that everything else was fleeting. Only his own strength was the king. No matter what he did, without strength, it was useless. In fact, this was something that Sumo had always understood, and it was also the biggest motivation for his cultivation. He was able to directly enter the inner sect and receive the attention of senior brother Windwheel, as well as everything that Mu Jinghong had done for him. Probably had a lot to do with him reaching the 6th level of chi refinement in less than a year. If he hadn't been able to cultivate, things wouldn't have turned out this way. No one would waste time on a good-for-nothing. A fire wheel or earth wheel expert wouldn't even be interested in killing him. This seemed to be a very dark humor. However, this was the truth. To be killed, one needed a certain level of strength. Otherwise, who would be so bored as to crush ants every day, especially ants that posed no threat? The world was interesting like this. Those who weren't capable would stand aside. Those who were capable would have many enemies. However, everyone yearned to be capable. If you wanted to be safe forever, you had to have the strength to crush everything. This was the case for Sumo. Therefore, he didn't dwell on the things that second senior brother said to him. Sumo would always let go of things that he couldn't understand or that were unnecessary. At dusk, Sumo left the cave and went straight to Jubao Pavilion at Yangzhen Peak. Cultivation was still fundamental, and self-protection was the best guarantee. Therefore, he wanted to exchange for some high-quality spiritual food to assist in his cultivation. He wanted to build his foundation in the shortest time possible. Originally, he could have gone to the inner sect's Jubao Pavilion in the Tianluan area. However, after considering the familiarity, price, and especially safety, he decided to go to Jubao Pavilion at Yangzhen Peak. After all, he could also sell high-quality spiritual food there. Moreover, there was still a little advantage for inner sect disciples to go to Yangzhen Peak. Chapter 95. Although it was already dusk, Yangzhen Peak was still very lively. 5 wheels and 7 meridians. If one were to consider the number of people, it would still be considered as Yangzhen Peak. Cultivators at level 7 Qi refinement would be selected by the inner sect. Therefore, in the entire Yangzhen Peak, apart from special people, no one could ride the wind. Therefore, everyone would take a few more glances at the cultivators who rode the wind. As a matter of fact, as soon as Sumo rode the wind, he received a certain amount of attention. Actually, Sumo wanted to keep a low profile, but his actions were indeed a little high profile. However, there was no other way. Ever since he could ride the wind, Sumo felt a little tired from walking. Sumo landed not far away from Jubao Pavilion, still wearing the same tattered clothes. He could not bear to wear the clothes that 7th senior sister made for him. Perhaps it would be cooler to wear rags. However, this did not affect the respect that the outer sect disciples of 5 Wheels had for Sumo. Senior Brother Su. Hello, Senior Brother Su. Senior Brother Su, you're here? There was no one on Yangzhen Peak who did not know Sumo. At this moment, almost all the disciples greeted Sumo passionately and reverently. If it was said that when Sumo came to Yangzhen Peak a few days ago, everyone was still a little unconvinced and had some doubts in their hearts. After all, making an exception to enter the inner sect at level 6 Qi refinement was a bit of a cheap trick. There was definitely jealousy in everyone's heart. However, on this day, Sumo rode the wind, which meant that he was a pure level 7 Qi refinement cultivator. This was enough to shut up all the gossipers. In just a few days, he had advanced another level. How did Sumo cultivate? Ordinary cultivators would not be able to achieve this in a few years or even a lifetime. How did this guy who was born as a beggar break through like a hot knife through butter? Everyone could not figure it out, but no one dared to ask. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. With this speed, he would probably be able to build his foundation soon, right? Sumo politely greeted everyone and tried to look as calm as possible before entering the quest pavilion. Senior Brother Su. Senior Brother Su. The 2 disciples in the 4th level of the Qi refining realm in the Jubao Pavilion were surprised to see Sumo. Sumo was now a famous figure in 5 Wheels. Number 1 in 10,000 years was not an exaggeration. They probably didn't expect that Sumo, who had entered the inner sect, would still visit Yangzhen Peak's Jubao Pavilion. Is Senior Martial Brother Yang not here? Sumo was asking the real manager of Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yang Xiu of the Fire Wheel lineage. The last time he came to the Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yang Xiu gave him a discount. Replying to Senior Martial Brother Su. Senior Brother Yang just went out with Junior Sister Xiao. A hint of playfulness and ambiguity flashed through the eyes of one of the 4th level Qi refining disciples. However, if Senior Brother Su has any urgent matters, we can immediately contact Senior Brother Yang. Oh! Sumo thought to herself. That Xiao Chuya seemed to be very close to that Yang Xiu. Could it be that she was going to join the Fire Wheel lineage in the future? However, this had nothing to do with him. No need. What high-grade spiritual food do you have here? Pick a few of them for me. Give me a fair price and I won't trouble Senior Martial Brother Yang. Don't worry, Senior Martial Brother Su. You can choose what you want. It doesn't matter if Senior Martial Brother Yang is here or not. We'll definitely choose the best for you and the price will definitely be the lowest. The 2 Qi refining cultivators were very good at talking. However, in this Yangzhen Peak's Jubao Pavilion, there were only 7 or 8 types of high-grade spiritual food suitable for cultivation. After all, there weren't many cultivators in Yangzhen Peak who needed high-grade spiritual food. Most cultivators couldn't afford it at all. There were a lot of middle-grade spiritual food, but Sumo didn't like them. The 2 Qi refining cultivators were still pondering which ones to choose. Later, Sumo waved her hand. "I'll take as many as you have." "Huh? Okay." Although the 2 Qi refining cultivators were a little dumbfounded, they knew that Sumo was now a rich beggar cultivator, so they directly prepared them. There were a total of 8 types of high-grade spiritual food, all of which were plants and herbs. There were a total of 220 servings. In the end, Su Zimo bought all of them, spending less than 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones. That was close to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. But for the current Sumo, it was just a small amount of money. He had 20,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and he spent less than 1/20th of it. This was definitely a big deal for Yangzhen Peak's Jubao Pavilion. For the first time in her life, Sumo felt that not being able to spend money was also a kind of pain. It seemed that she still had to go to Tianluan Mountain's Jubao Pavilion next time. If she was afraid of being unsafe, she could ask a senior martial brother to accompany her. The spirit stones on Sumo's body were a formless pressure on him. Sumo wanted to consume a part of them. It would be best if she could use them all for her own combat power. And the best way to consume them was to buy spiritual food, let the copper bowl bless her, and then absorb them herself. After buying the spiritual food, Sumo didn't stay for long and directly returned to the 9th peak of Windwheel Mountain. Originally, he wanted to go to the sect's cave abode to see Bai Lai. But thinking of the eldest senior martial brother's instructions and the second senior martial brother's words, he still felt that Windwheel Mountain was safer. So, he directly returned to the Windwheel Cosmic Cave. With the superior grade spiritual food, Sumo directly took out the copper bowl. He was going to upgrade the copper bowl again. And this time, Sumo was not stingy. First, he threw all the scattered spirit stones on him, whether they were low grade or middle grade, into the copper bowl. Then, he directly threw more than 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones into the bowl. This was definitely a big deal. At the same time, he also made a round number of his middle-grade spirit stones, 18,000. Chi, hoo-hoo, inside the copper bowl, white smoke billowed like a white flame. In the end, those spirit stones disappeared, as if they were swallowed by the copper bowl, not even ashes were left. And this time, the appearance of the copper bowl changed qualitatively. Previously, when Sumo threw more than a dozen middle-grade spirit stones into the copper bowl, he found that the copper bowl was a little stupid. That was because the dark lines on the copper bowl had deepened and become heavier. But this time, the copper bowl really changed completely. Based on ordinary spirit stones, Sumo had thrown more than 100,000 spirit stones into the bowl at once. Hoo-hoo, as the middle-grade spirit stones disappeared, the copper bowl in Sumo's hand gradually turned into an object with 3 legs and 2 handles, emitting a greenish-yellow light. Sumo was stunned. This is a cauldron. The broken copper bowl actually evolved into a cauldron? The small cauldron was extremely heavy, and it was covered with tadpole-like runes. Unfortunately, Sumo did not recognize a single one of them. However, the small cauldron emitted an endless aura of vicissitudes. Green light flowed, deliberately colorful. Moreover, there were 2 ancient words carved on one side of the small cauldron: Soul Depository. Soul Depository? Sumo held the ancient cauldron and was shocked. Why is it Soul Depository again? Previously, he entered the mysterious cave abode in Punishing Heart Cliff, and there was a so-called Soul Depository there. Soul Depository Cauldron, Soul Depository Altar. What was the connection between them? Moreover, can this small cauldron still evolve? Is this its final form? Sumo asked inwardly. He took out another 100 middle-grade spirit stones and threw them into the copper bowl again. However, after the spirit stones entered the bowl, there was no reaction. Sumo was stunned. He took out the spirit stones, and they actually had spirit energy. Complete evolution? Sumo's heart skipped a beat. What a pity, this small cauldron looks good. However, it is not as comfortable as the broken copper bowl. Sigh. Sumo held the soul depository cauldron in her hand and muttered to herself helplessly. However, something strange happened. Following Sumo's words, the soul depository cauldron actually flashed with a green light, and then instantly turned into the original appearance of the broken copper bowl, as if it had not absorbed a single spirit stone. This scene gave Sumo a huge shock. What's going on? Sumo rubbed her eyes and then said, "Change back." Just as she finished speaking, another green light flashed. The broken copper bowl really did turn into the soul depository cauldron. Can it be a little bigger? Another green light flashed, and the soul depository cauldron actually more than doubled in size, and it seemed like it could still grow. Can it be a little smaller? As expected, the soul depository cauldron quickly shrunk. What a great treasure! Sumo trembled with excitement. Could this be the soul depository cauldron? Come. You'll become a stick for me. Sumo had forgotten himself. With a loud shout, his body suddenly shot forward. Unfortunately, the soul depository cauldron did not move at all. Chapter 96. Soul Depository Cauldron. The broken copper bowl's final form was actually an ancient cauldron. This greatly exceeded Sumo's expectations. Could all of this be related to Sumo's mysterious experience in Silent Death Valley? Sumo did not need to think to know that the soul depository cauldron was definitely a treasure. Moreover, the broken copper bowl and the soul depository cauldron could be changed at will. This was simply great. This way, it would not be too ostentatious. Normally, Sumo could directly take out the copper bowl. Then, Sumo took out a soul-intoxicating grass from her storage bag. It was a high-grade spiritual food that could be consumed directly or used as medicine. It looked similar to reeds. Because one would smell alcohol after eating it, it would seem as if they were drunk, hence its name. At this moment, it was the soul depository cauldron's state. Sumo directly threw the soul-intoxicating grass into the cauldron. Chi-chi, white mist rose, but it did not dissipate and hovered around the mouth of the cauldron. The soul-intoxicating grass did not split into two like the previous spiritual food. Instead, it directly melted and turned into a faint fruit juice that was roughly the size of the cauldron's bottom. According to the previous situation, this would be the completion of the blessing. The density of the fruit juice was enough to increase by 5 to 6 times. However, at this moment, the soul depository cauldron suddenly emitted a greenish-yellow light. The entire cauldron slightly trembled. The fruit juice at the bottom of the cauldron slightly trembled and then gradually solidified. A moment later, the fruit juice turned into a solid crystal the size of a fingernail. Chi-chi, the cauldron shook again. The green crystal actually began to spin rapidly inside the cauldron, and the speed became faster and faster. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The soul depository cauldron let out 3 buzzing sounds. Finally, the white gas gradually disappeared, as if it had been completely absorbed. Ding-dang, a crisp sound rang out. Sumo had been watching attentively. At this moment, at the bottom of the cauldron, a small green pill appeared. Sumo used her fingers to pick up the bean-sized pill and sniffed it. It actually had a fragrant aroma, and there was not a trace of alcohol smell. Refined into a pill? Sumo was shocked. This was simply too amazing. This little soul depository cauldron actually refined spiritual food into a pill? Sumo didn't think too much about it. She ate the little green pill first. As soon as the little green pill entered her mouth, Sumo felt a lingering fragrance that refreshed her heart and mind. At the same time, a thick stream of spiritual energy entered his Dan-si. The spiritual energy in that little green pill was even denser than the 10 bowls of mid-grade fruit juice that Sumo had drunk in the past. First, the spirit cooking had changed from mid-grade to high-grade. Secondly, the copper bowl's blessing ability was further enhanced. Sumo estimated that the soul-intoxicating grass in the soul depository cauldron had increased its spiritual energy by at least 10 times, or even more. This meant that under the same circumstances, Sumo's cultivation speed was 10 times faster than others, and this was only after taking into account the factor of spirit food. Sumo didn't hesitate for long. In his storage bag, there were a total of 5 stalks of soul-intoxicating grass. He took them out and threw them into the soul depository cauldron. A moment later, a thumb-sized pill appeared in the cauldron. This was a pill with 5 times the efficacy of the pill. Then, Sumo turned the soul depository cauldron into the shape of a copper bowl and swallowed the big green pill. If it was a normal pill, it would have some toxicity, but the pill in the soul depository cauldron was absolutely natural and had no toxicity. Even if some of the residue had been filtered out by the soul depository cauldron. This little cauldron was a treasure among treasures. Soul depository cauldron, what was its origin? Whoosh, after Sumo ate the green pill, he sat cross-legged, and layers of waves appeared in his Dan sea. He began to cultivate according to the incantation of the unwithering chi. A first-class cave abode, first-class cultivation method, first-class spiritual food, plus Sumo's persistent cultivation and strong faith, how could he not be powerful? This cultivation lasted for a month. Sumo's cultivation mentality was the same as when he first entered the 5 wheels. He forgot to eat and sleep, and didn't slack off at all. Of course, as his cultivation level increased, his need for spiritual energy also increased exponentially. In this month, he used the copper bowl to add a few more kinds of spirit food. Only then would he be able to sustain his consumption. No one disturbed Sumo. Everything was peaceful in the Windmill Universe Cave. Sumo's cultivation level increased by leaps and bounds. In just a month, he had reached the peak of the 7th Chi refinement realm. This was a speed that would shock everyone. One must know that Sumo became a cultivator of the 7th Chi refinement realm in just a month. Now, in his Dan sea, there were 7 water halos shining brilliantly. The 7th halo was showing signs of breaking through soon. On this day, Sumo slowly opened his eyes. Originally, he wanted to break through to the 8th Chi refinement realm in one go. However, at this moment, his windmill jade scroll suddenly vibrated. "Little junior brother, come to Yangzhen Peak quickly. It's an emergency." It was Su Yike's voice transmission. Sumo was slightly stunned. Why was 5th senior brother looking for him? Emergency? Could it be that he found out about the Black Mission Jade Scroll? But if he couldn't find out, why would he look for him immediately? Or did something happen to Bai Lai? Thinking of this, Sumo felt that it was possible. Otherwise, ordinary things would not have anything to do with him. Sumo quickly got up and left the cave because he could not think of many reasons why Su Yike would summon him. After flying at high speed, Sumo arrived at Yangzhen Peak in a short while. He came from the direction of the windmill and happened to pass by the back mountain of Yangzhen Peak. It was only 7 in the morning. However, the back mountain of Yangzhen Peak was densely packed with disciples. What's going on? Sumo wondered. Why are there so many people here? At this moment, a black figure flashed and blocked his way in the air. Little junior brother. It was 5th senior brother Su Yike. He did not look too good. 5th senior brother, what happened? Why are there so many people? Why are you looking for me? Sumo's heart tightened and he frowned. Did someone bully Bai Lai? No. Su Yike shook his head and said in a deep voice, Bai Lai is fine. Did Huang Zhe and Deng Feng come back? But, oh! Hearing that Bai Lai was fine, Sumo heaved a sigh of relief. However, he hurriedly asked, Senior brothers Huang Zhe and Deng Feng are back? Isn't that a good thing? I'm missing them. Sumo said that she missed Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. Su Yike's expression became even worse. Little junior brother, they're back. But, sigh. See for yourself. With that, Su Yike moved away and waved his hand slightly. The aura of the Foundation establishment stage spread out, and a path was instantly opened up on Yangzhen Peak. At this moment, most of the disciples of Yangzhen Peak looked at Sumo. That was because many of them knew the relationship between the first person in 10,000 years and the two corpses. At this moment, Sumo's expression changed drastically. That was because two corpses were nailed to a 10-feet-tall boulder in the square behind Yangzhen Peak with two 2-foot-long silver spears. The two corpses were dressed in 5-wheeled gray robes, but they were stained with blood. The two corpses were covered in wounds when they were alive. One was tall and one was short, one was fat and one was thin. Both of them had their eyes wide open, as if they had died with grievances. Moreover, there was a talisman stuck on their gray robes. It was a non-decaying talisman that could ensure that a cultivator's body would not rot for 30 days after death. That way, even if one wanted to use special methods, they would not be able to find out everything about the cultivator before his death. It could be said that the clues to the murderer had been cut off. Chapter 97. In fact, Sumo didn't have much contact with Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. When she first entered 5 Wheels, the two senior brothers arranged everything for her. Then, it was that time when they helped her out. At that time, Deng Feng used his 10 spirit stones to bribe Zhao Yunxing. There were only 2 times in total. However, when people got along with each other, they could be as good as new or they could be as good as old friends. Huang Zhe and Deng Feng were the latter for Sumo. After that, Sumo went to find the 2 senior brothers, and they went down the mountain to carry out their task. They were gone until now. A few days ago, Sumo was still thinking about the 2 senior brothers and wanted to repay them. However, she didn't expect to see 2 corpses, and 2 corpses that had been tortured to death. Sumo's cheeks were tense, and the corners of her eyes were slightly red. In the entire 5 Wheels, the first people Sumo wanted to thank were actually Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. Mu Jinghong was ranked behind them. This was because, although Mu Jinghong brought Sumo to 5 Wheels, the feeling he gave people was too distant and cold. Moreover, Sumo always remembered Mu Jinghong's words about wanting to kill him. However, Huang Zhe and Deng Feng were different. Their cultivation levels weren't high, only at the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm. However, Sumo had experienced what it meant to be a senior brother from the same sect. This was something that the senior brothers from the Wind Wheel sect couldn't compare to. Because, today, Sumo was the first person on 5 Wheels in 10,000 years, and his future was boundless. At that time, Sumo was really a little beggar. He had nothing, and his future was uncertain. At that time, Mu Jinghong might have been observing. Huang Zhe and Deng Feng didn't look down on him at all. Perhaps it was because of Mu Jinghong, but Sumo could feel the sincerity of the 2 senior brothers. At this time, Su Yike opened a path for Sumo. The disciples of Yangzhen Peak on both sides looked at Sumo, the new inner disciple of the Wind Wheel sect. No one said anything. There were several thousand aura refining disciples on Yangzhen Peak. As a matter of fact, Huang Zhe and Deng Feng were nothing special. In fact, most of the disciples did not even recognize them. However, the way they died was too unique. It was normal for a few cultivators to die on Yangzhen Peak. However, no one had ever been dumped on Yangzhen Peak and nailed to such a high place. There had never been a situation like this where it felt like a public display. On the Yangzhen Peak, cultivators were the weakest, but no one was stupid. Huang Zhe and Deng Feng must have offended someone they shouldn't have. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been nailed here. The host of Yangzhen Peak was a core formation elder. Logically speaking, he should have been notified about this long ago. However, there was no order for a long time, and the situation was not cleaned up. This in itself was an abnormal situation. Actually, before Sumo arrived, Huang Zhe and Deng Feng had already been hanging for almost an hour. There were quite a few disciples under Huang Zhe and Deng Feng's name, but none of them dared to come here, afraid that they would get into trouble. For example, Chun Dong, who was in the crowd. He just frowned slightly, feeling very strange. Xiao Chia, Song Tanjir, and the others were also there, but everyone was watching. At the same time, some people were panicking. 5 wheels. Outer disciples were also 5 wheels. However, did the 2 outer sect disciples just die in such an inexplicable manner? This was 5 wheels. Usually, the cultivators who were close to the 2 did not dare to come forward. Moreover, Sumo from the inner sect had already appeared. Sumo did not think too much. She dodged the crowd and walked directly to the giant rock with a serious expression. "Senior Brother Huang. Senior Brother Deng." Sumo called out in a low voice. However, how could the 2 corpses answer? Sumo felt like a knife was stabbing into his heart. He did not have much contact with the 2 senior brothers, but he had not repaid their kindness. Sometimes, to people, it was more painful to have unrequited kindness than to have unrequited hatred, because people tend to be kind. Sumo originally wanted to help the 2 senior brothers more in the future. However, he no longer had the chance. Sumo waved his hand, and spiritual power spread out from his hand. He directly pulled out the 2 nails, and then used his spiritual power to hold the 2 corpses. Then, he gently waved his hand, and Huang Zhe and Deng Feng gently closed their eyes. Sumo raised his eyebrows and did not say much. He did not know how much pain the 2 senior brothers were in before they died. However, he knew that this kind of death was definitely not ordinary. The waters of 5 wheels were too deep. In such a big place like Yangzhen Peak, no one would collect the bodies of 2 cultivators in the 5th level of the Qi refining realm? In such a big place like Yangzhen Peak, no one cared about their life and death? "Senior Brother Su." A person next to him called out softly. It was Xiao Chia in a white dress. The reason why she called out to Sumo was obvious. She did not want Sumo to get involved in this muddy water. The purpose of throwing the corpses was, first, to intimidate, and second, to see who would collect the corpses. The person behind the scenes must be watching everything in the dark. Naturally, the person behind the scenes would know that Sumo was collecting the corpses. "Thank you, junior sister Xiao." Sumo glanced at Xiao Chuya and said calmly. Then, she looked around and smiled faintly. "Senior brothers Huang Zhe and Deng Feng, if you have any enemies, feel free to come at me, Sumo." Sumo's voice was not loud, but a cold light flashed in her eyes. Then, there was no fluctuation in her expression. In fact, Suemo didn't even say anything about taking revenge. However, everyone felt an indescribable power emanating from Sumo's body at that moment. There seemed to be a temperament awakening in Sumo's body. First, Sumo used her hands to carry Huang Zhe's body. However, Deng Feng's body could only be carried away with spiritual power. Su Yike was beside Sumo, but his gaze was slightly focused. In fact, the reason he called Sumo over was to see what Sumo would do. At this moment, he was very satisfied with Sumo's actions. Only a person who valued affection and righteousness was worthy of Windmill. However, Su Yike did not go over to help Sumo. He wanted to let Sumo experience everything on her own. Otherwise, Sumo would not understand the cruelty of cultivation little by little. "Little Su, I'll help you." Among the crowd, a figure flashed out. It was Bai Lai. Bai Lai had just arrived and was originally there to watch the show. However, when he saw Sumo, he rushed out without hesitation. Although Bai Lai was thin and small, he was strong enough to carry Deng Feng's body. "Bai Lai, let's go." Sumo looked at Bai Lai and nodded without saying anything. "Yes." Bai Lai nodded. 2 beggars, one old and one young, slowly walked out of the back mountain of Yangzhen Peak with 2 corpses. Su Yike did not say much and directly followed behind. A middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator was enough to suppress all the noise. On Yangzhen Peak, there was a special place for burying cultivators. They went straight there. As the three of them walked away, the disciples on Yangzhen Peak instantly began to discuss. How did Huang Zhe and Deng Feng die? It's so tragic. Yes, the two of them seemed to be good people, but they didn't have much contact. Senior brother Su is really loyal. Isn't that so? You know, this matter is too strange. I've been at Yangzhen Peak for 20 years, and I've never seen such a situation. It doesn't seem like a vendetta. You guys stop talking nonsense. Otherwise, disaster will come from the mouth. Do you think you're inner sect disciples? At this moment, Chun Dong sighed and said to Xiao Chuya and Song Tanja next to him, "It's really different after entering the inner sect. Sumo is really bold. He dared to collect the corpses in such a public display." Song Tanja shook his head and did not say anything. Xiao Chuya glanced at Chen Dong coldly. Even if senior brother Su doesn't enter the inner sect, he will definitely dare to collect the corpses. After saying that, Xiao Chuya walked towards the place for burying cultivators. Stunned, Chen Dong looked at Song Tanja and shook his head helplessly. In his opinion, Sumo's actions did not benefit him at all. Xiao Chuya was also a little childish. What was the use of love when people were already dead? At this moment, in the void of Yangzhen Peak, two figures in black were hidden. One of them was Mu Jinghong, and beside her stood Shin Lang in black. "Senior sister Mu, you're sure that junior brother Su will come to collect the corpses, right? As long as he knows, he will definitely come. Otherwise, he won't be him." Mu Jinghong's expression was calm. He needs this kind of experience to gradually understand some things. Those who are not ruthless will not be able to become almighty. Huang Zhe and Deng Zhong will not die in vain, Shin Lang said coldly. "Senior sister Mu, I will immediately arrange the next step." Mu Jinghong nodded and did not say anything. Chapter 98. The burial ground of Yangzhen Peak was a secluded hillside. The hillside was picturesque. There was a small river that flowed directly into the River of White Bones at the entrance of the mountain. Five-wheel cultivators believed that the souls of those who died here would flow along the River of White Bones and eventually flow into the River of Pure Water. Then, they would be reincarnated. Sumo and Bai Lai were carrying Huang Zhe's and Deng Feng's corpses. Su Yike followed behind them silently. A little further away, there were some qi refinement cultivators who were familiar with Huang Zhe and Deng Feng. However, they did not dare to get close and only watched from afar. That could be considered as sending them on their way. Sumo waved her hand. The two corpses were swept up by the spirit energy and floated above the river. Sumo patted her storage bag again, and two fire talismans flew out. Whoosh! The two corpses were instantly ignited. In fact, the process of a person's life was starting from burning, then flashing and finally turning to ashes. However, the smoke was not black. Instead, it was emitting a light blue flame. This scene caused Su Yike's brows to furrow slightly. Sumo did not pay much attention to this, because his emotions were a little chaotic. Along the way, he did not say a word. At this moment, Sumo only looked at the two burning corpses with a slight frown. No one knew what she was thinking. The light blue flame surprised many aura-refining cultivators at the back. However, they were only surprised, because they did not know why. Of course, this matter had nothing to do with them. Among the crowd stood the fatty Guan Xiong. His small eyes were squinted, making it almost impossible to see his gaze. However, when the blue flame ignited, a strange look flashed in his eyes. Soul carrier? Guan Xiong's heart skipped a beat. Did I see wrong? How is this possible? Could the little five wheels be a soul carrier? Huang Zhe, Deng Feng, level 5 Qi refinement, 16 years on the mountain. Ordinary immortal root. Guan Xiong silently read the information he had compiled. However, people like Huang Zhe and Deng Feng were already good enough to have their names on his list. There was no special record at all. Those who could enter Guan Xiong's record were not ordinary people. It could be said that before this, if Mu Jinghong hadn't put sumo under their name, they would have been dead. Guan Xiong didn't pay any attention to the two LV5 Qi refining realm cultivators, because they were simply too inconspicuous. There were tens of thousands of such cultivators on Yangzhen Peak. Looks like we have to re-evaluate 5 wheels? TSK. Guan Xiong blinked his eyes and said with a faint smile, "Things are getting more and more interesting." At this moment, the fire was about to die out. His ashes were like snow as they scattered into the burial cultivator river. Sumo's eyes narrowed. Could this be the fate of many ordinary aura refining cultivators? In fact, thinking about it, they seemed to be no different from mortals, just that they could live for a few more decades. In the burial of Cultivator's River, the ashes scattered into the distance. The cultivators who were watching from afar had done their part and left one after another. After all, they hardly ever grieve. Many of the mourners were only there for the ceremony. When the ceremony ended, none of them felt sad. In fact, they even felt a little more relaxed. That was because they had accomplished something. Sumo, Bai Lai, and Su Yike did not leave. Sumo stood by the burial cultivator river and watched as the last of the ashes sank to the bottom of the river. He knew that Bai Lai and Su Yike were the only ones left. Fifth senior brother, do souls really reincarnate in the pure water river? Sumo asked. Oh. Su Yike smiled but did not say anything. In fact, he gave Sumo an answer. In this world, how could there be reincarnation and rebirth? Everything was just a fantasy. Fifth senior brother, who do you think killed them? Senior brothers Huang Zhe and Deng Feng should be people who stand aloof from worldly affairs. Sumo's voice was deep and her brows were tightly knitted. Ha ha! Su Yike laughed bitterly. Little junior brother, you're oversimplifying things. Sumo did not understand. In this world, the weak are prey to the strong. In the cultivation world, everything is under control. If you have it, others don't. If others have it, you don't. Su Yike looked at Sumo and said seriously, Little junior brother, there are no people in this world who stand aloof from worldly affairs. There are many people who claim to stand aloof from worldly affairs, or in the eyes of others, stand aloof from worldly affairs. Either they have everything and there's no need to fight for it, or they just don't want to fight for it with you. The domain they fight for is beyond your reach. In this world, there's only one type of people who don't fight for it. Su Yike's lips curled into a meaningful smile. What kind of people? Sumo asked. Dead people. Bai Lai let out a long sigh. It seemed like he completely understood Su Yike's words. That's right, Bai Lai. Su Yike looked at Bai Lai and nodded slowly. Then, he looked at Sumo and said, Little junior brother, do you understand now? To be able to do what happened today, the mastermind is at least a core formation cultivator. Sumo did not speak and only watched the burial cultivator river flow slowly. Stand aloof from worldly affairs? You don't have to fight for it, but others can fight for what you have. So, either you exist in a higher realm or you die. Sumo was silent for a long time. Finally, the corners of her lips curled up. Many cruel truths were gradually understood by humans. A person's heart would gradually turn cold. Thank you, fifth senior brother. Sumo has learned a lot. Sumo turned around and bowed to Su Yike. Hee. Su Yike nodded and did not say anything else. Then, he turned around and slowly walked out of the land of buried cultivators. This time, he had achieved his goal of asking Sumo to come. Little junior brother, that Huang Zhe and Deng Feng are definitely not aura refinement cultivators. Otherwise, they wouldn't have blue flames. Blue flames mean that they're at least at the foundation establishment realm. The moment Su Yike turned around, he transmitted his voice to Sumo alone. Sumo's heart skipped a beat, but her face was expressionless. It seemed like there were many things that he really couldn't see through. However, he would see through them, and he needed to. No one was willing to live in a fog. Foundation establishment and core formation were domains that he had yet to fully enter. "Bai Lai, let's go," Sumo said lightly. The two of them walked out of the land of buried cultivators and unexpectedly met Xiao Chia. The current Xiao Chia was already a cultivator at the 4th level of aura refinement. "Senior brother Su." Xiao Chia seemed to be waiting for Sumo. "Junior sister Xiao, what's the matter?" Sumo said. "Nothing." Xiao Chia smiled and hesitated for a moment before saying, "However, I feel that there are many things that senior brother Su shouldn't meddle in. Although senior brother Su has entered the inner sect, it's better to endure and avoid the matters of the 5 wheels as much as possible. This will help with cultivation." Sumo smiled. "Junior sister Xiao, do you know something? I'm just a mere 4th level aura refinement cultivator. What can I know?" Xiao Chia shook her head and smiled bitterly. "It's just that I'm worried for senior brother Su. I heard from Holuan's senior brother Yang that the inner sect's attitude towards senior brother Su isn't very good." Hee. Sumo nodded. She guessed that Xiao Chia might have heard something, but it wasn't convenient for her to say it out loud, so she came to remind her. "Thank you for your kindness, junior sister Xiao. I Su will be careful." The words Su seemed to make the two of them seem distant. Xiao Chia smiled but didn't say anything. Sumo and Bai Lai left, but after a few steps, Sumo stopped. "Junior sister Xiao, I heard that you're close to the fire wheel lineage. However, I have something to say. Senior brother Su, please say it." Xiao Chia's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. 5 wheels, 5 meridians. Earth wheel and fire wheel are not suitable for junior sister. If you can't enter the heaven wheel lineage, I feel that the water wheel lineage is more suitable for junior sister. "Yes, I understand." Xiao Chia nodded. Sumo and Bai Lai left. Xiao Chia looked at Sumo's disappearing figure, and couldn't help but bite her moist red lips. She pondered over Sumo's words. What did she mean? Could it be that senior brother Su heard something? She only hoped that Sumo wouldn't treat her as a frivolous person. Everything she did was just to speed up her cultivation a little bit. Chapter 99. Sumo and Bai Lai first returned to the cave abode at the mountain gate together. Huang Zai's and Deng Feng's corpses were dumped at Yangzhen Peak. Everything was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. The core formation realm elder, who was in charge of Yangzhen Peak, was in a rage in his cave abode. The Yangzhen Peak elder's surname was Song and his name was Yu. He was an early-stage core formation realm cultivator. Of course, he knew better than Su Yike what it meant when 2 Qi refinement disciples' corpses were dumped at Yangzhen Peak. Moreover, those 2 people were not real Qi refinement disciples. Inside the cave, the teacup was smashed into pieces. However, that could not appease the Yangzhen Peak elder's anger. Of the 5 wheels and 7 meridians, Yangzhen Peak appeared to be the weakest, but its status was also the most special. This was because Yangzhen Peak was inextricably linked to the other meridians. Because of this, Yangzhen Peak often became the place where the other meridians wrestled. Many undercurrents were surging at Yangzhen Peak. In fact, it was common for disciples of Yangzhen Peak to disappear inexplicably or die suddenly. However, this was the first time someone dumped corpses in such a blatant manner. This was a challenge to the long-standing tacit understanding between them. It seemed that someone was already very dissatisfied with everything about 5 wheels. Has Yangzhen Peak become a place to dump corpses? This shows that they don't respect me, the Yangzhen Peak's manager. However, the Yangzhen Peak elder did not dare to show his face directly. Nevertheless, he needed to take responsibility for this matter. 2 Foundation establishment cultivators' corpses were dumped at Yangzhen Peak. Naturally, the power behind this was not small. Sumo's act of collecting the corpses alleviated his awkwardness to a certain extent. However, as an elder of Yangzhen Peak, he could not just let it go. Otherwise, he would be useless, and the next person to die would be him. Thinking of this, the Yangzhen Peak elder heaved a long sigh. With a slight movement, he left the cave and headed straight for the ancestral spirit peak, which was the deepest part of the 5 wheels. The ancestral spirit peak, the first peak of the 5 wheels, was hidden in the clouds. According to the rules of the 5 wheels, only nascent soul cultivators could cultivate on the ancestral spirit peak. In fact, the true foundation of the 5 wheels lay in the ancestral spirit peak. There were a total of 7 nascent soul ancestral patriarchs in the ancestral spirit peak. This was the top-notch force that the 5 wheels relied on to survive in the northwest of the Bone mainland. The one with the lowest cultivation level was, of course, the early-stage nascent soul, who was the current sect leader of the 5 wheels. The one with the highest cultivation level was the blind ancestor, who was at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul realm and had issued the decree that day. However, everyone knew that it was impossible for the blind ancestor to transform into a soul. In fact, his lifespan was running out. Normally, these nascent soul cultivators didn't care about the affairs of the world. The sect master of 5 wheels was just a title. Most of the matters in the sect were decided by the 5 lineages. However, the arrangements of the principal elder of the Yangzhen Peak had to be made by the ancestral spirit peak. This was because, in a certain sense, this position was very special. Elder Song of the Yangzhen Peak had been in charge of the Yangzhen Peak for more than 100 years. Mist covered the vast expanse. From afar, the ancestral spirit peak seemed to be above the clouds. One could only see the peak but not the peak itself. The path to the ancestral spirit peak was lined with clouds. As a core formation cultivator, Elder Song was able to ride the wind and ride the cloud. His figure rose and fell like a swan before landing on the cloud closest to the ancestral spirit peak. Then, he knelt on one knee and was very respectful. Unless there was a decree from the ancestral spirit peak, no one was allowed to take half a step into the ancestral spirit peak. Anyone who did would be killed without mercy. Even though Song Yu was a core formation elder, he couldn't enter the ancestral spirit peak. He could only kneel on the cloud. Song Yu, the principal of the Yangzhen Peak, begs for the sect master's divine voice. The ancestral spirit peak stood alone in the depths of the 5 wheels. Apart from the clouds, there was nothing else. Elder Song's voice reverberated, making the surroundings seem even more empty. After a while, a deep voice came from the ancestral spirit peak. "What's the matter, Song Yu?" "Sect Master, I'm stupid. I've been in charge of the Yangzhen Peak for 100 years, but I haven't accomplished anything. Now, someone even dumped a corpse on the Yangzhen Peak, but I can't control myself. Therefore, I'm asking for forgiveness and resigning from the position of the Yangzhen Peak's principal elder. I hope Sect Master can forgive me." After saying that, Elder Song kowtowed. After a while, the ancestral spirit peak's voice came. "I know about the Yangzhen Peak's matter. However, the matter of resigning from the position of principal elder needs to be discussed further. In 7 days, the ancestral spirit peak will give you the decree." "Thank you, Sect Master. I'll take my leave." Elder Song kowtowed again and stepped on the cloud. He knew that the ancestral spirit peak would not give him a clear answer right away, but the fact that the sect master did not make a decision was the best outcome. The position of Yangzhen Peak's principal elder was too dangerous. On the way back to the Yangzhen Peak, they passed by the Sky Wheel region. At this moment, a cultivator was already waiting for Song Yu in the sky. It was none other than the Sky Wheel region's Elder Du, Elder Song. Elder Du smiled warmly. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Song Yu smiled as well. Thank you for your trouble, Elder Du, ha ha. Elder Du laughed. Elder Song, you're too kind. If that's the case, why don't you come to my cave abode and have a drink with me? Song Yu looked at Elder Du and shook his head. To be honest, Elder Du, I have something important to attend to at the Yangzhen Peak. Why don't I prepare some wine and invite you to my cave abode for a chat? What do you think? Oh, ha. Elder Du did not force him. He smiled and said, if that's the case, let's do it another day. However, Chief Yang asked me to bring something to Elder Song, as well as a few words. With that, Elder Du took out a storage bag and handed it to Song Yu. Song Yu hesitated for a while but still took it. He scanned it with his divine sense and found out that there were 20,000 middle-grade spirit stones and a bottle of high-quality elixirs. Since Song Yu took the storage bag, the smile in Elder Du's eyes became more pronounced. There's not much to show my respect. Chief Yang also said that thanks to Elder Song's care for the past 100 years, most of the outstanding disciples at the Yangzhen Peak have entered the Sky Wheel region. In the future, as long as Elder Song is still in his position, the Sky Wheel region will definitely be the same. Even if Elder Song is no longer willing to worry, the Sky Wheel region will also welcome you. Elder Song is always welcome to stay at the Sky Wheel Mountain. Chief Yang is more willing to help Elder Song improve his realm. Song Yu bitterly smiled. Tianluan's branch was indeed generous. It really made people unable to refuse. This was also the reason why he had been biased toward the Sky Wheel region all these years. Then, he looked at Elder Du meaningfully. Elder Du, please tell Chief Yang that I, Song Yu, will remember the favor of the Sky Wheel region. However, there are too many troubles at the Yangzhen Peak now. Ha! Elder Du smiled. Don't worry, Elder Song. The Sky Wheel region will not sit idly by. Such troubles are definitely not caused by the Sky Wheel region. Therefore, please stay at the Yangzhen Peak, Elder Song. I'll try my best. Song Yu put away the storage bag and cupped his fists at Elder Du. I'll take my leave. Elder Du smiled and cupped his fists. Then, he looked in the direction where Song Yu had disappeared and smiled coldly. Chapter 100. Song Yu's cave abode was definitely second to none en route nurturing peak. When he returned to his cave, a black-robed cultivator was waiting with his hands behind his back. Song Yu couldn't help but frown. Because there weren't many cultivators who dared to stand in front of his cave on Yangzhen Peak. Even ordinary core formation cultivators were polite to him. However, that black-robed cultivator was only a foundation establishment cultivator. The black-robed cultivator was also a bit strange. This could only mean one thing. The person behind this foundation establishment cultivator was very powerful. At this time, the black-robed cultivator turned around. Unfortunately, he used a spell to cover his face. Greetings, Elder Song. The black-robed cultivator's voice was slightly hoarse. It was unknown if it was originally like this or if it was intentional. However, the hoarse voice made people feel very uncomfortable. Who are you? Song Yu coldly asked. Who I am is not important. The black-robed cultivator chuckled. I just want to know, who was the person who dumped the corpse on Yangzhen Peak last night? The person who dumped the corpse? Song Yu sneered. If I knew who dumped the corpse, I would have already done it. Do I need an uninvited guest like you to ask? Uninvited guest. The black-robed cultivator shook his head. Elder Song, I came to ask on Senior Sister Mu's order. It's better if you don't say anything. Senior Sister Mu? Song Yu's expression changed. Of course, he knew who Senior Sister Mu was. However, there were many things that he had to pretend not to know. Since you are Junior Sister Mu's person, then I won't beat around the bush. I really don't know about last night's matter and am investigating further. If there are any results, I will certainly report to Junior Sister Mu. Moreover, the head of Tianluan Yang should also be very concerned about this matter, right? Song Yu's words were very tactful. Mu Jinghong asked too many questions. The black-robed cultivator shook his head. Elder Song, you have been in charge of Yangzhen Peak for hundreds of years. I believe you are familiar with every grass and tree on this mountain. With your core formation pressure, you can completely monitor everything on this peak. Unless Elder Song didn't wish to see it, there shouldn't be anything that Elder Song didn't know, right? As for whether the first seat of the Sky Wheel World cares or not, it's better for us not to talk about it. You really think too highly of me, a core formation elder. Song Yu put on a fake smile. According to what you said, a nascent soul ancestral master can see everything in the 5 wheels, right? Then what's the point of hiding? Oh! The black-robed cultivator didn't seem to expect Elder Song to be able to counterattack like this, so he changed the topic. Elder Song, Huang Zhe and Deng Feng are clearly not aura refinement cultivators, but they've never entered the inner sect. As the manager of Yangzhen Peak, how are you going to explain this? Song Yu did not speak, but his expression changed slightly. Because he knew what the black-clothed cultivator was going to say. Sure enough, the black-clothed cultivator said slowly, on the Bone Continent, the number 1 enemy of my 5 wheels is the Slekton sect. When the 5 wheels were first built, members of the Slekton sect sneaked in. Later on, the ancestral master said that anyone who enters the inner sect must pass through the 5 wheels holy temple to test themselves. On the Yangzhen Peak, everyone is an outer sect disciple with a cultivation level below the 7th level of aura refinement. But now 2 foundation establishment cultivators have appeared. If this is investigated, could it be that you, Elder Song, are secretly hiding a bone cultivator in Yangzhen Peak? Otherwise, why didn't they enter the inner sect and instead live freely on the Yangzhen Peak? Adultery with Bone Continent is the number 1 crime in the 5 wheels. If it's true, then Elder Song, I'm afraid you'll be banished to the pool of 10,000 sins in the back mountain of the ancestral Soul Peak. You'll suffer endless torture. The black-clothed cultivator's words caused Song Yu's expression to change slightly. However, he was a core formation elder after all, so he was able to calm down and wasn't frightened. Are you done talking? I have a clear conscience. Adultery with Bone Continent? Haha. This kind of crime is to be burned to ashes and suppressed in the pool of 10,000 sins forever. I won't admit to it either. Song Yu's words showed some backbone. Elder Song sure has a backbone. The black-clothed cultivator smiled. Whether or not you admit to it is your business. However, whether or not you convict me, Elder Song doesn't have the final say. However, Elder Song isn't willing to say anything. Then, soak in the pool of 10,000 sins for a bit. I will reply to Senior Sister Mu. However, I have to remind Elder Song. I'm sure Elder Song has heard of Senior Sister Mu's methods. If Senior Sister Mu gets angry, then Elder Song doesn't need to plead guilty and resign. You won't have the chance to enjoy the 20,000 middle-quality spirit stones and a bottle of Good Dan from the Sky Wheel Mountain. Then, the black-clothed cultivator prepared to leave. Wait! Elder Song's eyebrows twitched. Of course, he had heard of Mu Jinghong's ruthlessness. 3 years ago, a peak late-stage foundation establishment cultivator offended Mu Jinghong and was thrown into the pool of 10,000 sins. He was tortured to death for 3 months. Back then, Mu Jinghong wasn't as powerful as he is today. Now that Mu Jinghong was backed by the Sky Wheel Mountain, he simply didn't care about the other sections. Moreover, Mu Jinghong actually found out about everything that happened just now so quickly. It seems like some of my old matters are probably under the other party's control. Mu Jinghong really has eyes and ears everywhere in the 5 wheels. Elder Song, do you have something to say? The black-clothed cultivator's tone softened. He knew that he couldn't be too hasty. I really don't know who did what happened last night. Song Yu laughed dryly. However, since you know where I went today, Then I'm sure you also know which sect I came from. Song Yu's words had a hidden meaning. However, such words were only meant for the ears of smart people. Oh! The black-cloved cultivator's tone was meaningful. He cupped his fists towards Elder Song. Elder Song is a smart person. I thank Elder Song on behalf of Senior Sister Mu. You can continue to be the manager of the Yangzhen Peak sect. We won't disturb you anymore. With that, the black-clothed cultivator turned around, turned into a black light, and disappeared. Song Yu stood outside the cave residence with a cold expression. After all, no one liked to be forced. Then, Song Yu hurriedly entered the cave residence and flipped his hand, revealing a transmission jade slip. A message was sent by Song Yu. Earth Wheel Mountain, Cave Residence. Yin Zhongmo was sitting cross-legged opposite Elder Sunday. At this moment, the jade slip in Yin Zhongmo's arms vibrated. The Earth Wheel Chief Monk scanned it with his spiritual sense and knew the content. He couldn't help but sneer. Chief Monk, did Junior Song reply? Elder Sun asked. That's right. Junior Song replied. There didn't seem to be any big movements from the Sky Wheel and Fire Wheel sects. However, Mu Jinghong actually sent someone to find out who disposed of the corpse? It seems that Sumo was most likely instructed by Mu Jinghong to collect the corpse. Mu Jinghong is bold enough? He actually dared to send someone to ask directly? Elder Sun said, 3,000 years of dazzling white bones? I think Mu Jinghong probably thinks that he's a nascent soul cultivator. The corner of Yin Zhongmo's mouth curled up. Chief Monk, what should we do next? Elder Sun asked. Of course, kill Sumo and take back the soul gathering pearl. Isn't the next trial for the inner disciples about to start? That's an excellent opportunity. Yin Zhongmo narrowed his eyes. Others might be afraid of Mu Jinghong, but I'm not. If she's really the person behind those two cultivators, Yin Zhongmo raised his hand with a cold gaze. Chapter 101. Sumo and Bai Lai rested for a while in the cave abode at the mountain gate. Then, Sumo invited Bai Lai to the Windmill Mountain. Originally, Bai Lai didn't dare to go. After all, he had spent most of his life on the periphery of the five wheels. In his dreams, he would at most raise his own root. He had never thought of going to the intersect at all. However, Sumo's sincere invitation made Bai Lai's heart itch. Thus, the two of them went to the Windmill 9th Peak together. This time, Sumo took Bai Lai on a 5-wheeled flying sail. Bai Lai was very excited because he had never flown in the air before. Sumo was very emotional, and in the end, she said that she would give the 5 flying sails to Bai Lai. After all, Sumo still had a nascent soul-level flying magic treasure, the Skywheel Immortal Boat. Bai Lai was so moved that he was about to cry. Little Su, you're really loyal. I didn't give you all the spirit stones that Fairy Mu gave me in vain. Bai Lai sighed that his investment was completely correct. Sumo smiled and didn't say anything. After a while, the two of them arrived at the Windmill 9th Peak. The current 9th Peak was no longer as abandoned as it was when Sumo first arrived. Although it couldn't compare to the small bridge, flowing water, fragrant flowers, and chirping birds of the 2nd Peak, it was far better than the farmhouse atmosphere of the 1st Peak. Bai Lai naturally felt that it was fresh. When Sumo brought him to the Windmill Cosmic Cave, Bai Lai actually looked at the 4 big words on the cave abode for the first time. He put his hands behind his back and said slowly, Windmill Cosmic Cave. At that moment it was quite imposing. Then, Bai Lai followed Sumo into the Cosmic Cave. Bai Lai should have done a lot of research on cave abodes. After all, he was a professional cleaner. However, this was probably the first time that Bai Lai had seen such a huge abode like the Windmill Universe Cave. Little Su, this Immortal's Cave is simply too good. Bai Lai walked through each of the small holes. Sometimes he would rub the cave wall with excitement and envy, his eyes shining. This universe cave was really too good. What do you think? Bai Lai, why don't you move here? Sumo smiled. Forget it. I'm an old beggar, I don't have that kind of fate. Bai Lai sighed. Just come and take a look. Although he was excited, he did not forget himself. He was well aware of his own status. The rules of the five-wheel sects did not allow outer sect disciples to stay in the inner sect. If it wasn't for Sumo, he probably wouldn't have had the chance to come in and have a look. Sumo did not force him to stay. Bai Lai was used to living on Yangzhen Peak. Now that he was doing well on Yangzhen Peak because of Sumo, it was good for him to live on Yangzhen Peak. Now, the Mountain Gate cave abode had become Bai Lai's personal cave abode. He could live a comfortable life with food and drink. If that was the case, Sumo would be very pleased. Unfortunately, Sumo knew that it might not be the case. Fifth senior brother is right. Everything can't be too simple. Sumo took out a few types of spirit food from her storage bag and prepared to serve Bai Lai. Those spirit food were all superior grade, and Bai Lai would never be able to eat them on a normal day. However, at this moment, someone suddenly called outside the cave abode. Little junior brother, I'm here. It was none other than Lu Tianzhan. Sumo smiled. It was better to come at the right time than early. Sumo opened the cave abode and let Lu Tianzhan in. Little junior brother, you're indeed in the cave abode. Look, I brought a pot of immortal wine and some game from Windmill, Lu Tianzhan said as he walked in. Sure enough, he carried a pot of wine in one hand and a bird that looked like a pheasant in the other. However, as soon as Lu Tianzhan entered the cave abode and saw Bai Lai, he could not help but be stunned. When Bai Lai saw Lu Tianzhan, he also seemed to be slightly stunned. Little junior brother, you have a guest? Lu Tianzhan asked. Sixth senior brother, you came at the right time. He's Bai Lai, my friend. I also have some spirit food here. Let's enjoy it together. Sumo pulled Lu Tianzhan over enthusiastically. Bai Lai, this is my sixth senior brother. He's a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. When Bai Lai saw Lu Tianzhan, he hurriedly stood up in a very reserved manner. At the same time, he subconsciously covered his storage bag. Senior Lu. Hello. Bai Lai seemed to be trembling. Generally speaking, calling Lu Tianzhan senior was already too much for him. That was because Bai Lai was a mortal, not a cultivator at all. Ahem. However, Lu Tianzhan's eyes seemed to wander. He did not dare to look at Bai Lai. Instead, he looked at Sumo and said, Little junior brother, you have a guest here. Why don't I come back another day? With that said, he actually wanted to leave. How could Sumo let him go? She hurriedly arranged for Lu Tianzhan to sit down and said with a smile, Sixth senior brother, why are you so polite? Let's have a chat. Don't you want a foundation-breaking pill? Foundation-breaking pill. When Lu Tianzhan heard this, he hesitated for a moment before sitting down. Then, he unexpectedly said to Bai Lai with a sad face, Bai Lai, let's make a deal. Don't covet my things. I'll give you the heaven mixing net, but I don't have anything else with me. This. Bai Lai also looked very embarrassed. He nervously rubbed his hands. No. What happened before was all a misunderstanding. You know each other. Sumo smiled faintly. We've met. Lu Tianzhan looked a little nervous. The net we use for fishing was given to me by Senior Lu. Bai Lai seemed to want to ease the atmosphere. He pretended to be relaxed and said, I caught a lot of fish with that net. Sumo naturally remembered senior sister Mu's words. It seemed that the senior brother Lu that senior sister Mu mentioned was indeed her sixth senior brother. With senior brother Lu's temperament, he actually gave Bai Lai a magic treasure, the heaven mixing net. It seemed that there must be a secret. Moreover, looking at the situation in front of her, sixth senior brother was actually a little afraid of Bai Lai. This was very strange. Sumo pondered in her heart. I'm going to clean up the cloud-tail chicken. You guys talk. Bai Lai took the bird from Lu Tianzhan's hand and went directly to another cave abode. He had all the tools for cooking in his storage bag. In the main cave, only Sumo and Lu Tianzhan were left. Sumo said with a smile, "Why? Sixth senior brother, you're so generous. How could you give Bai Lai a magic treasure? When will you give me 1 or 2 magic treasures?" "When did I give Bai Lai a magic treasure?" Senior brother Lu sneakily looked at the cave abode where Bai Lai was and then lowered his voice. "Little junior brother, this Bai Lai is very strange." "Oh!" Sumo smiled. "Back then, I refined the heaven mixing net for the convenience of my prey. To tell you the truth, it cost a lot to refine the heaven mixing net. It's a magic treasure that is close to the nascent soul realm. However, there was a hunting trip. I don't know how I met this Bai Lai. He seemed to be picking spiritual food. Originally, I was aiming for a spirit deer. However, as soon as the heaven mixing net came out, it actually locked Bai Lai in the net. So, Bai Lai cried and said that he was injured and that an inner sect disciple bullied an outer sect disciple. Anyway, he acted shamelessly and wanted a few spirit stones. Did you give him spirit stones?" Sumo said with a smile. "If I gave him spirit stones, would I still be your sixth senior brother?" Lu Tianzhan said disdainfully, but he was instantly disappointed. "I thought that if I didn't give him spirit stones, I would take the heaven mixing net and leave. He's just an old cultivator. What can he do? But guess what? What's wrong?" Sumo was also curious. Chapter 102. Cultivators' magic treasures usually had their own imprint. Unless the owner of the magic treasure died or was forcibly erased by an expert, the magic treasure could not be owned by others. Lu Tianzhan couldn't take back his magic treasure? Moreover, that magic treasure was refined by himself. "Did Bai Lai erase your imprint on the magic treasure?" Sumo asked in surprise. "No." Lu Tianzhan shook his head. "My imprint was still on the heavenly net, but it didn't work. No matter how I tried to retract the net, I just couldn't. Later, I even tried to retract the net manually, but it just couldn't change. It was as if all the spirituality of the net had been locked." "Did Bai Lai do it?" Sumo asked suspiciously. "What was Bai Lai doing at that time?" "I don't know. Was it him? I don't think so. Because he was crying at that time." Lu Tianzhan recalled that time and felt a toothache. "Crying?" Sumo was amused. "Why was Bai Lai crying?" "He cried and said that I bullied him, an old cultivator. He also said that I couldn't take back the magic treasure and that I shouldn't kill him. In short, he nagged me and made me upset." "Ha ha." Sumo laughed. He believed that Bai Lai had the ability to do so. "What happened then?" "Later, I thought of several ways to take back the heavenly net, but it didn't work. I even took out other magic treasures to take back the heavenly net. But the strange thing was that it seemed that all the magic treasures were ineffective that day." Lu Tianzhan's eyes still had a trace of fear when he thought of the scene that day. Sumo smiled and said nothing. However, a confirmation in his heart gradually took shape. "Then, guess what Bai Lai said?" Lu Tianzhan was so angry that he laughed. "What did he say?" "He said, 'Is this boundary haunted? A few days ago, he came here with a few ghosts, and they were playing around here.'" Sumo couldn't help but laugh. "What is that place?" "It's near the mountain gate, a very ordinary boundary. We are cultivators, why should we be afraid of ghosts?" But when he said that, I also felt strange and gloomy. Lu Tianzhan said with a sad face. "And then? In the end, I was a little worried, so I left the heavenly net. Later, it was said that the heaven mixing net became a net for fishing, and it was said that an inner court disciple gave it to him out of kindness. Ha! Sumo found it very funny. Can Bai Lai use kindness to trap senior brother Lu? He reckoned that in the end, he wouldn't be able to take back the heavenly chaos net and would have no choice but to give it to him. That Bai Lai is indeed an old cultivator without an immortal root. Later, I investigated him. He was often bullied on root nurturing peak. Lu, master, Lu. Lu. Su, Li said. I, Li. Sumo smiled and didn't say anything. At this time, Bai Lai brought a bowl of steaming cloud-tail chicken soup. Little Su, Senior Lu, the chicken soup is ready. Come, taste my cooking. After making the chicken soup, Bai Lai didn't seem as nervous as before. Sumo and Lu Tianzhan stopped talking about what happened just now. The atmosphere was more relaxed. After putting all the spiritual food and immortal wine on the table, the three of them began to taste the soup and drink. Bai Lai and Lu Tianzhan slowly relaxed and talked about some relaxed topic. Sumo was still using his broken copper bowl. She ate and drank to cultivate, and her cultivation was doubled. However, Sumo had something on her mind, so she was very restrained. Originally, Sumo wanted to stay with Bai Lai for 2 days. However, Bai Lai didn't agree, saying that Yangzhen Peak couldn't live without him. The sanitation project needed him. It would be enough if he could come to such a cave abode in his life. Sumo smiled and didn't force him to stay. In the end, he took out the 5 sails and gave them to Bai Lai, telling him to go back and take care of himself. After sending Bai Lai off, Senior Brother Lu naturally had to leave. However, Sumo asked Senior Brother Lu to stay for a while. 6 Senior Brother, you should know that I went to Yangzhen Peak to collect the corpses during the day, right? Sumo sighed. I know. Lu Tianzhan patted Sumo's shoulder and comforted her. 5th Senior Brother told me about it. Little Junior Brother, you did the right thing. Actually, I was afraid that you'd feel uncomfortable, so I came to drink with you. They're busy, so it's not convenient. Thank you, 6th Senior Brother, and the other Senior Brothers and Sisters. Sumo smiled. We're brothers, so there's no need to be so polite. Lu Tianzhan's wretched look disappeared, and then he said earnestly, Little Junior Brother, to be able to dispose of corpses on Yangzhen Peak without making a big deal out of it, one has to be at least a core formation cultivator to do that. Do you understand? I understand. 5th Senior Brother said the same. Sumo smiled, then she paused and said, So, 6th Senior Brother, I'm going into seclusion. Seclusion? Lu Tianzhan was slightly stunned. Yes. I want to build my foundation as soon as possible. A hint of determination flashed in Sumo's eyes. The deaths of Huang Zhe and Deng Feng made Sumo realize once again how important it was to have great power. Therefore, he decided to go into seclusion. All right. Lu Tianzhan pondered for a moment. We'll support you. It's indeed a good thing that you build your foundation earlier. When will you start? The day after tomorrow at the latest, Sumo said. I'll prepare something tomorrow. I won't tell eldest Senior Brother and the others one by one, so I'll have to trouble 6th Senior Brother to inform them. That's no problem. Lu Tianzhan seemed to have thought of something. By the way, Little Junior Brother, I'm here to tell you something. The inner sanctum trial that happens once every 5 years is about to begin. If it's fast, it'll take 3 months. If it's slow, it'll take 4 months. It's been many years since anyone from our Wind Wheel faction has participated in the trial. This time, you'll need to participate on behalf of Wind Wheel. Although you've already built your foundation when you come out of seclusion, the trial still has many benefits. However, that trial still has a lot of benefits, Lu Tianzhan said with a smile. Sumo did not ask about the specifics of the trial. Alright, no problem. Lu Tianzhan nodded. 6th Senior Brother, this is the foundation-breaking pill that you've always wanted. With that, Sumo flipped her hand, and a foundation-breaking pill appeared. Huh! Lu Tianzhan was a little embarrassed when Sumo suddenly took out the foundation-breaking pill. One must know that he had spent a lot of effort to get the foundation-breaking pill. Ahem! Little Junior Brother? This. Take it. Sumo smiled. If you don't eat it, it might be taken advantage of in the future. Humph, haha. That's good too. I'll be treated better than it. Lu Tianzhan regained his perverted look and put away the foundation-breaking pill happily. Little junior brother, don't worry and go into closed-door cultivation. No one will disturb you here. I'll tell eldest senior brother and the others about your decision tomorrow. If there's anything important, just tell them in the wind wheel jade slip. Everyone will know. Okay. Sumo nodded. In the end, Sumo sent Lu Tianzhan out of the cave abode. After Sumo returned to the cave abode, Lu Tianzhan stood in the air outside the 9th peak of Wind Wheel Mountain for a while. He took out the foundation-breaking pill from his storage bag and looked at it. He could not help but smile. In fact, he did not need the pill at all. However, he was quite pleased that Sumo thought about it before going into closed-door cultivation. The perverted Lu Tianzhan was not perverted at all. To be honest, the foundation-breaking pill was taking up space in his storage bag. But he liked to talk to Sumo like that. Haha. Lu Tianzhan flew into the sky and could not help but laugh. Chapter 103. Inside the windmill cosmic cave, Sumo sat cross-legged. At this moment, he was in a complicated mood. As for Bai Lai, he had always been paying attention to him. From the moment he went up the mountain, he felt that Bai Lai was special. At first, he wondered if 5 Wheels really needed an old beggar like him. This was because Bai Lai's position on the root-nurturing peak was dispensable. Although Bai Lai was always bullied, he was fine for 50 years on Yangzhen Peak. It should be noted that Bai Lai was not the only child cultivator who couldn't cultivate an immortal root in the past 50 years. There must be many people who were worse off than Bai Lai. However, no one could stay like Bai Lai. Bai Lai had a black jade slip. But later, Sumo asked and found that 5 Wheels didn't have the so-called black jade slip to access the abode. The jade slip to access the abode was also white. So, how could Bai Lai enter and exit the abode freely? He was a mortal. Lu Tianzhan's words today made Sumo suspect that Bai Lai had secret. Sumo was almost certain that senior brother Lu couldn't take back the heaven mixing net because Bai Lai had something to do with it. However, no one could see through Bai Lai. In the mighty 5 Wheels, Sumo believed that there were definitely people who were more powerful than her. However, everyone said that Bai Lai was an old child cultivator. Although senior brother Lu felt uncomfortable when he saw Bai Lai, he was quite sure that he was immortal. Unless Bai Lai was a peerless almighty. Sumo felt that her deduction was a bit ridiculous, but it seemed possible. She thought about the time when Xin Lang made things difficult for Bai Lai. Everything that happened afterward was enough to prove that Xin Lang did it on purpose. In that case, could it be that Xin Lang's objective was merely to probe his character? Could it be that Xin Lang was testing Bai Lai as well? What kind of person was Bai Lai? Senior brother Huang Zhe and Deng Feng are also Foundation establishment cultivators? Were they the same as Xin Lang? They were all senior sister Mu's people. Otherwise, why would senior sister Mu put her name under Huang Zhe and Deng Feng's name? What was Mu Jinghong trying to do? Her position in the 5 Wheels was transcendent, but she also seemed to have independent strength. Wasn't the sect leader's disciple enough? According to Mu Jinghong's development, the 5 Wheels would be in her hands in the future. Holy Wheel Ancient Remains, Silent Death Valley. Sumo recalled her first encounter with Mu Jinghong. According to second senior brother, the White Bone Ridge was 70,000 kilometers away from the 5 Wheels. Presumably, Mu Jinghong would not casually go sightseeing 70,000 miles away. Moreover, Mu Jinghong had warned her not to mention that she walked out of the Silent Death Valley, or else he would kill her. That was no joke. Sumo had seen Mu Jinghong's ruthless methods. He did not doubt that even if their relationship was a little delicate, Sumo would still abide by her promise. He had never told anyone about the Silent Death Valley, nor did he dare to. Who knew what those glowing white skeletons signified? At this moment, all the known information flashed through Sumo's mind, but she could not link it all together. Sumo could only vaguely feel that everything was connected. There seemed to be an invisible net around her, intertwining with each other. She could not see it, nor could she find it, but it truly existed. Sumo let out a long breath, trying to calm herself down. The 5 wheels was like a black hole, and this black hole seemed to lead to an even darker and more unknown place. Sumo needed a certain amount of time and space. Today, Huang Zai's and Deng Feng's deaths were only a direct trigger. In fact, Sumo had long planned to go into seclusion. That way, he could eliminate all distractions and focus on the Tao. There were many things that Sumo did not care about whether he knew or not. When the world outside Peach Blossom Town changed and that ancient ship-like thing crossed the void, Sumo's fate changed. But no matter what, Sumo did not want to be anyone's chess piece. No matter who that person was, Sumo did not want to be controlled. Sumo only wanted to do what he wanted to do. If he was really drawn into some kind of torrent, then he had to control his own direction. He was not afraid of death, and right or wrong was not the most important thing. The key was that he had to be willing. Sumo wanted to firmly grasp the right to decide his fate in his own hands. But if he wanted to guarantee this, only cultivation was the right way. Sumo knew this very well. Therefore, this was the reason why he decided to go into seclusion. Many problems that seemed hard to solve now could be solved when he reaches the foundational level. Problems that he still could not understand when he reached the foundational level, perhaps he would understand when he reached the completion level. Therefore, the key to solving all mysteries was not just searching and thinking, but also making himself stronger. That way, a lot of problems could be easily solved. The corner of Sumo's lips curled up and he grinned. He firmly believed that he could do it. Even if the 5 wheels were a black hole, he could survive and even light up the black hole. Early the next morning, Sumo flew straight to the Jubao Pavilion on Mount Tianluan. He spent 3,000 spiritual stones of medium quality to buy a lot of high-quality spiritual food and other things he needed to go into seclusion. This time, everything went smoothly and he didn't run into anyone he knew. Though the inner sect disciples of the Jubao Pavilion were curious about Sumo, they didn't show much of anything. After all, the inner sect disciples were much more knowledgeable than the outer sect disciples, and they wouldn't be surprised. Sumo brought the items back to the 9th peak. He estimated that those items should be enough to support his consumption when he went into seclusion. The goal of Sumo's seclusion was very simple: to build his foundation. Sumo had the Soul Depository Cauldron and the Foundation Establishment Pill. He was completely confident that he could build his foundation successfully. It just depended on how long it would take. 3 months should be enough. As for the inner sect trial, he would think about it when the time came. After getting everything ready, Sumo sealed his cave abode and began to cultivate in seclusion. Putting aside Sumo's seclusion for the time being, he talked about the movements of the various branches of the 5 wheels. 7 days after Song Yu of Yangzhen Peak resigned, he received a reply from the ancestral spirit peak in his cave abode. Elder Song, you have been in charge of Yangzhen Peak for 100 years and have worked hard. You were not at fault for dumping the corpses at Yangzhen Peak, so we won't pursue it. However, if you can't resign, you will be rewarded with 10,000 medium-quality spirit stones and a heaven cultivation pill as a reward. Humph. Song Yu sneered. This time, he really wanted to resign from his position as an elder of Yangzhen Peak. This was because it was too tiring to be sandwiched between the various branches. However, he didn't expect it to become a retreat in order to advance. It seemed that the Heaven Wheel and Earth Wheel experts didn't want to lose him. It was just that he didn't know how long he could maintain this situation of benefiting from both sides. A few more days passed. The matter of Huang Zhe and Deng Feng seemed to be gradually forgotten. After all, there were no signs of trouble after that. Everything in the 5 wheels seemed to have returned to normal with Sumo's seclusion. Those who needed to nurture their roots did so, and those who needed to cultivate cultivated. Soon a month passed. On Yangzhen Peak, the child cultivation test was held. However, Sumo didn't need to participate. However, everyone in the 5 wheels knew that Sumo was in seclusion to break through to the Foundation establishment realm. Everyone was shocked. Was she going to break through to the Foundation establishment realm in a little more than a year? In the child cultivation test, Xiao Chuya won all 7 battles and won first place. Song Tanger and Chen Dong also became famous in the Yangzhen Peak with excellent result. However, Ling Muzi, who was once one of the 4 great child cultivators of the Yangzhen Peak, didn't appear. It was as if he had disappeared. As a result, there were more and more rumors about Ling Muzi. Some said that Ling Muzi was dead, some said that Ling Muzi had been in seclusion, some said that Ling Muzi didn't want to participate in the child cultivation test and was already at the 7th level of Qi refinement, and so on. For a while, there was a lot of uproar. Ling Muzi didn't even show up, but his reputation surpassed the 3 great child cultivators and was chasing after Sumo. This made the 3 great child cultivators feel ashamed. Sumo was in seclusion, but the 5 wheels was still full of talents. Chapter 104. The night was dark. The 5 wheels and the array were blurry and emitted all kinds of colorful light. At this moment, a black shadow flashed in the air and headed straight for the 9th peak of the Windmill Mountain. The black shadow's movement technique was very special. It appeared and disappeared in the air, as if it was jumping between different space-time nodes. The 5 wheels had a protective array, but the Windmill sect had a different array. The Windmill sect's array was even more mysterious than the 5 wheels array. However, the black shadow walked as if it was on flat ground and was not stopped at all. Then, the black shadow stood outside the 9th peak of the Windmill Mountain and stared at the entrance of the Windmill Universe Cave. The black shadow was none other than Mu Jinghong. Sumo had been in seclusion for 2 months and 7 days. She remembered it clearly. At this moment, Mu Jinghong's expression was very calm. Nobody knew why she was here. Whoosh, however, the moment Mu Jinghong arrived outside the 9th peak, a figure pounced at her. Because Mu Jinghong had already violated the taboo of the Windmill sect by entering the Windmill Mountain. The 9th peak of the Windmill sect was now a forbidden area for the Windmill sect. That punch was extremely fierce. The wind from the punch shook everything within a radius of tens of feet. The wind from the punch was as sharp as a sword and was filled with murderous intent. Mu Jinghong's expression was calm. Since she was here, she was naturally prepared to deal with this kind of situation. The Windmill sect was definitely not as weak as the rumors in the 5 wheels made them out to be. If the Windmill sect allowed her to come and go as she pleased, then Mu Jinghong would be disappointed. When the wind from the punch arrived, Mu Jinghong retreated and raised her hand. The aura of a perfected late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator was instantly released. In theory, no cultivator below the core formation realm could suppress Mu Jinghong's aura. Boom, however, the 2 forces collided and created layers of air waves in the air. Mu Jinghong and the person who had punched out both took a step back. They were evenly matched. Mu Jinghong vaguely felt that she was at a disadvantage when she waved her hand. At this moment, a figure appeared not far away from Mu Jinghong. It was a blue-robed male cultivator who looked to be in his 20s. He was extremely tall, like a small giant. However, the male cultivator's eyes were a little dull. However, killing intent gathered on his face as he stared blankly at Mu Jinghong. Mu Jinghong was an intruder. The 8th son of the Wheel of Wind, Han Tian. Mu Jinghong sized up the male cultivator and paused for a moment. Because everyone knew that the 8th son of the Windwheel sect was a fool. Seventh senior sister said that the ninth peak of the wind wheel tower is a forbidden area. I won't kill you. Han Tian didn't ask who Mu Jinghong was and didn't say anything else. Mu Jinghong sneered. Kill me? Do you know who I am? I don't care who it is. Because seventh senior sister said that aside from the senior brothers of Wind Wheel, no one is allowed to get close to the ninth summit right now. Han Tian's voice was silly, but there was no room for doubt. Mu Jinghong's eyes narrowed as if he wanted to see through Han Tian. That was because she did not believe that there would be a so-called fool in the Wind Wheel faction. However, Han Tian's expression remained the same. Mu Jinghong didn't see any flaws. However, 3 breaths later, Han Tian attacked again. Because seventh senior sister told him that if the other party didn't leave after 3 breaths, he would attack. Han Tian listened to seventh senior sister the most. Kill! Han Tian shouted without any hesitation. Han Tian's robe suddenly puffed up. The ripples of spiritual energy on his body actually took shape. It was golden spirit chi, and it was extremely special. The green robe and the golden spirit chi were extremely dazzling. Whoosh! 9 golden dragons instantly appeared around Han Tian, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. At that moment, Han Tian's aura was like that of a god that had descended to the mortal world. It actually surpassed Mu Jinghong's. That was definitely not the power and aura of an ordinary late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist. Mu Jinghong's expression changed. That was because the Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist was a secret technique of the 5 wheels that had long been lost. There were records of the 5 wheels. The Holy Wheel Ancestral Master felt the power of the heavens and understood the fist technique. When the fist was thrown, the dragon would be born. 1 punch would collapse mountains, 2 punches would reverse the waterfall, and 3 punches would destroy a nascent soul. The fragmented records of the Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist in the 5 Wheels Ancient Book could be said to be exceptionally domineering. In fact, this fist technique was comparable to a great Dharma spell. However, fist techniques were generally considered to be low-level techniques in the cultivation world. Therefore, even though the legendary Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist was extremely powerful, there were very few people who could cultivate it. This was because it had extremely high requirements for the body and was extremely difficult to cultivate. A few decades might not necessarily be enough. Thus, the Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist was lost. According to the records of the 5 wheels, no one in the 5 wheels could use this secret technique. However, Mu Jinghong didn't expect Windwheel Han Tian to use the Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist. Moreover, the power of this punch was not small. The Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist was a fist technique that could challenge those of a higher cultivation level. According to Han Tian's current cultivation level, which was Advanced Foundation Establishment or Late Stage Foundation Establishment, this punch was enough to fight against a perfected Foundation Establishment cultivator. Kill! Han Tian's roar reverberated through the air. Mu Jinghong frowned slightly. The murderous intent on Han Tian's body had exceeded his expectations. Was he going to kill him with this move? Whoosh, whoosh, Han Tian seemed to be going all out. 9 golden dragons whizzed towards Mu Jinghong. That kind of power was enough to collapse a mountain. How powerful was the all-out attack of a late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator? Fortunately, 7th Senior Sister had already set up a formation on the 9th peak of Windwheel. Otherwise, this punch would have alerted others. Especially Sumo, who was in the Universal Cave, would have been alarmed. But now, Sumo was in the cave abode and didn't seem to notice. When he looked again, surprise flashed across Mu Jinghong's face. His eyes narrowed and a cold glint appeared in them. Actually, with Mu Jinghong's personality, if it wasn't for Sumo, Han Tian's murderous intent would have triggered Mu Jinghong's murderous intent. However, Mu Jinghong was facing a Windwheel disciple. Her black dress fluttered as Mu Jinghong formed a seal with her hands. Han Tian's 9 golden dragon fist was indeed powerful. However, Mu Jinghong instantly opened up a deep black hole that was more than 10 feet long in front of him. It was as if a space-time crack had appeared between her and Han Tian. Whoosh, roar, Han Tian's fist wind was directly sucked into the black hole and disappeared. The black hole instantly closed. Mu Jinghong stood in the air, not moving at all. Huh! Han Tian was stunned. This was the first time he had met such an opponent. It was also the first time he had seen such a spell. So what if it's the sacred wheel golden dragon fist? Try again. Mu Jinghong's lips curled into a cold smile. She drew an arc in the air with one hand. Whoosh! It was as if a divine gate had opened in the air. The black hole that had disappeared just now reappeared. At the same time, 9 streams of black gas burst out of the hole and turned into the shape of dragons, whizzing towards Han Tian. It was even more powerful than Han Tian just now. This scene was extremely strange. Chapter 105. The Windmill 8 sons each had their own strength. Although Han Tian was a little dumb, he was gifted with divine strength and had learned the 5-wheel holy fist. Therefore, Han Tian's battle prowess was definitely not low, and he loved to fight head-on like this. Mu Jinghong's fist wind attacked. Han Tian did not care whether the other party had borrowed his strength or not. Tens of thousands of spells, I can break them with one punch. Come on, break! Han Tian's eyes flashed with excitement. He took a step forward and raised his right fist like a divine hammer. The golden spiritual energy on his body rose again and turned into the shape of a dragon. However, there were more dragons this time, because this was Han Tian's second punch. It was like a golden storm that engulfed everything. This was the power of the holy dragon golden dragon fist. Every time it punched, its strength increased exponentially. As for the sacred dragon golden dragon fist, when cultivated to the highest level, the sacred wheel patriarch could only use 13 punches at most. 13 punches. That was the limit of the perfected late-stage soul transformation realm. Han Tian's second punch. Boom, crack. The black dragon and the golden dragon collided. Layers of sound waves and bursts of spiritual energy. The two forces collided and shattered. In the darkness of the night, the lights were like snakes. Some of them wandered around and dissipated, while others turned into snakes and headed straight for Mu Jinghong. It turned out that Han Tian's punch had not only directly dispersed the force of Mu Jinghong's punch, it had also transformed into a sword. The Windwheel faction really doesn't disappoint. Mu Jinghong smiled coldly. Kill without mercy. Han Tian still remembered what his eldest senior brother had said that day. Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist, the second move. If this punch landed, it could directly destroy a cultivator at the perfected foundation establishment realm, which was equivalent to Mu Jinghong's level. However, Mu Jinghong was no ordinary perfected foundation establishment cultivator. Otherwise, how would she dare to enter the Windwheel Mountain at night again? This time, Mu Jinghong didn't unleash the black hole spell technique again. Instead, he put his palms together and raised them toward the sky. At that moment, Mu Jinghong's figure was incomparably graceful. In an instant, she flipped her hands. Looking at the top of her head, a white ball of light appeared. Then, the ball of light instantly spread out, like a canopy of stars. Thousands of immortal curtains hung down. However, the canopy of immortal curtains continued to move. Heavenly Wheel Immortal Screen! Mu Jinghong exclaimed. It was a defensive technique that belonged to the Tianluan lineage. Bang chi 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 chi. Han Tian's fist wind first landed directly on the Heavenly Wheel Immortal Screen, stirring up thousands of air waves. However, Mu Jinghong remained unmoved within the Immortal Screen. In theory, Han Tian's fist wind was stronger with each wave. However, The heavenly wheel immortal screen continued to spin and actually dispersed the power of Han Tian's fist. From afar, it looked like a lady in a black dress holding a white imperial canopy with long tassels hanging down. In front of her was a green-clothed giant. His entire body shone with golden light as he unleashed a golden river. But the black-skirted girl, standing alone in the midst of the golden flood, parted it and dispersed it. One was like the Yangtze River, surging endlessly, the other was like an ancient boulder, unmoving throughout the ages. Mu Jinghong was indifferent and cold. Han Tian, on the other hand, was stunned and stunned. Outside the Windwheel Mountain, wisps of white or golden smoke curled up in the night sky. Although Han Tian was a little dumb, he was still aware of his own strength. Even if Mu Jinghong was a perfected foundation establishment cultivator, he shouldn't have been able to receive his second punch so easily. One had to know that Mu Jinghong had been defending and did not attack. Han Tian, can you still throw a third punch? Mu Jinghong asked calmly. She wanted to see how powerful the eighth son of the Windwheel Mountain was. At this moment, Han Tian's eyes were as red as a bull's, and the color of blood in his eyes intensified. Huff, huff, Han Tian took a deep breath, gently opened his right fist, and then slowly closed it again. The golden light lingered around his fist. Of course, Han Tian could still throw a third punch. Han Tian tilted his neck, and his eyes were dull and bloodshot. Then, he said in a muffled voice, "You're courting death." The first punch collapsed a mountain, the second punch reversed a waterfall, and the third punch destroyed a nascent soul. That was definitely not a rumor. At this moment, although Han Tian was limited by his cultivation level and his third punch could not destroy a nascent soul, the power of the third punch would multiply. Mu Jinghong might have blocked the second punch, but he might not be able to block the third punch. After all, Mu Jinghong was only at the perfected foundation establishment stage. Han Tian was a little muddle-headed, but he still hesitated for half a breath. However, it was only half a breath. Seventh Senior Sister's order was very clear. Anyone who gets close to the ninth summit will be killed. Looking at Han Tian's right hand, he once again lifted it slowly. At this moment, it was as if his fist was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. The golden light turned into arcs of lightning that swam around his fist, making a sizzling sound. Han Tian's eyes turned even redder, and his cheeks tightened. His tall body seemed to be manipulating his power. Golden flames burned on his body. The advanced stage of the foundational level, Han Tian seemed to be concentrating all his power into this third punch. Mu Jinghong squinted his eyes. Han Tian definitely had the ability to fight against a completion level. The Windwheel Mountain had been hiding their true strength. Roar! Just then, Han Tian dashed towards Mu Jinghong. His entire body turned into a giant golden god with a tail of light that was tens of feet long. His right fist was the divine axe that could split the sky. Han Tian's fist broke through the void and headed towards Mu Jinghong. At this moment, Mu Jinghong was still under the protection of the heavenly veil. However, Han Tian's punch was not dissipated by the white veil. Boom, crack, the white celestial veil crumbled in the wake of the fist wind. It no longer had the ability to defend itself. Mu Jinghong's eyes flashed with surprise. That technique just now was the secret technique of the Heavenly Wheel. In the entire Heavenly Wheel Mountain, there were only 7 or 8 people who could use this technique. It was a top-notch defensive technique. However, it was broken by Han Tian's punch. Mu Jinghong thought to himself, "Looks like I can't block Han Tian's golden dragon fist with my current peak foundational level. Unless..." However, it was not that stage yet. As the heavenly veil crumbled, Mu Jinghong flew up like a black swan. Amidst the golden light, Mu Jinghong waved his hand and a red shield appeared. On the red shield was the face of a ferocious monster. The sky was filled with red light and there was a hint of a nascent soul aura. Mu Jinghong actually took out a nascent soul-level magic treasure. Boom, boom, the red shield grew to a height of more than 10 feet and blocked in front of Mu Jinghong. Han Tian's third punch landed squarely on the red shield. Roar! Han Tian roared, his hair flying in the air. Blood chi surged from the red shield. The shield was forcefully pushed back dozens of feet by Han Tian, and even Mu Jinghong was pushed back. However, he still managed to block Han Tian's third punch. At this moment, Han Tian's right fist was already dripping with blood. Han Tian was probably the first person on the 5 wheels to block a nascent soul-level magic treasure with his fist. In the cultivation world, cultivators with powerful physical strength were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. If Mu Jinghong did not have a nascent soul-level defensive magic treasure, she would not be able to block Han Tian's third punch with her own spells. Of course, Mu Jinghong did not counterattack. In fact, she could use her exquisite spells to suppress Han Tian. However, she did not want to. Windwheel, not bad. Mu Jinghong looked at Han Tian calmly. But can you still punch a 4th time? If not, it's my turn. The Sacred Wheel Golden Dragon Fist doubled the power of each punch, but it also required one to use their own strength. A peak soul transformation cultivator could only punch 13 times. It was already very impressive for Han Tian to be able to punch 3 times at the late stage of foundation establishment. However, according to Mu Jinghong's calculations, Han Tian should be able to punch 1 more time. 4 punches was Han Tian's limit. At this moment, Han Tian's body shook slightly. An indescribable expression seemed to flash across his blank eyes. His right fist started to make cracking sounds. At the same time, he gritted his teeth. There was indeed something wrong with Han Tian's brain. Therefore, he did not stop and prepared to punch a 4th time. Chapter 106. The corners of Mu Jinghong's mouth curled up as he focused his gaze. Following that sweet-sounding voice, a female cultivator appeared beside Han Tian. It was Windmill's 7th disciple, Bai Yifeng. Dressed in an aqua-blue dress, Bai Yifeng had a graceful and beautiful figure. In terms of figure, Bai Yifeng might not be inferior to Mu Jinghong. However, Bai Yifeng's face was too ugly. Moreover, it was a kind of publicly acknowledged ugliness. There was almost no objection. Windmill, Bai Yifeng. Mu Jinghong said calmly. Greetings, Senior Martial Sister Mu. Bai Yifeng cupped her fists and said with a smile, the last time Senior Martial Sister Mu paid a visit to the Windmill Peak, it was the Windmill Peak. I'm really sorry that I didn't show up to welcome you. 8th brother, step aside for now. Although Bai Yifeng was smiling, it was really too ugly. Han Tian very obediently withdrew his aura for the time being, quietly standing behind Bai Yifeng on the left. Although the god of war was half a body taller than 7th senior sister, he was as docile as a cat in front of her. Since 7th senior sister was here, she would naturally be in charge of everything. Mu Jinghong sized up Bai Yifeng and slowly said, Today, if I don't force Han Tian to throw 3 punches, I won't be able to kill him. I'm afraid junior sister Bai still won't appear, right? In the Windwheel lineage, the 5th wheel is the weakest. Normally, he was kind to others and stood aloof from worldly affairs. If others bullied him, then so be it. He just had to endure it. Unless forced to a certain extent, we are usually unwilling to show our faces in public. Bai Yifeng said lightly. Ha ha. Mu Jinghong sneered. Junior sister Bai's words make it seem like I, Mu Jinghong, don't know the rules. However, junior martial brother Han still has some strength left. If he uses his 4th punch, I might not be able to block it. How is that possible? Bai Yifeng looked at Mu Jinghong with her big and small eyes. Our 8th brother is only capable of this. Actually, it wasn't worth senior sister Mu's probing. The Windwheel Mountain could not be said to be indestructible, but senior sister Mu did not need to worry about little junior brother's safety. Right now, the 9th peak of the Windwheel is a forbidden area. Once you enter my Windwheel Mountain, you will be a Windwheel person. Senior Sister Mu, don't tell me you still don't understand? Sumo is my servant, Mu Jinghong said. That's why I value his safety. Sumo is my junior martial brother, Bai Yifeng said. Our Windwheel faction attaches great importance to his safety. Both of their tones were unfriendly. With the foundation of the Windwheel lineage, Sumo doesn't need to go into seclusion. Mu Jinghong looked at Bai Yifeng, then at Han Tian. The Windwheel 8 sons each have their own unique skills. I hope that Sumo can learn from others. Learn from others. When Bai Yifeng heard this, she couldn't help but smile. Sumo is my Windwheel disciple. As for how he cultivates, that is our Windwheel's own matter. There is no need for Senior Sister Tianluan Mu to worry about it. If Senior Sister Mu has the heart, why don't you pass on your Skywheel secret technique to my junior martial brother? How can there be any secret technique in the Skywheel lineage? Mu Jinghong laughed coldly. Do you think I don't know that the true teachings of the 5 wheels are all in the Windwheel lineage? Oh! Bai Yifeng was shocked, but she did not show it on her face. Senior Sister Mu, you're flattering me. The Windwheel lineage is the weakest of the 5 lineages, and we can't even accept disciples. This time, if not for the ancestral master's pity, I'm afraid that little junior brother would not have entered the Windwheel Mountain. The Skywheel lineage is the strongest of the 5 lineages. How can the Windwheel lineage compare to it? Tonight, I'm just Mu Jinghong. I don't represent the Skywheel Mountain. Mu Jinghong looked at the entrance of the Qiankuan cave, as if he did not want to talk nonsense. Then, he turned to look at Bai Yifeng. Sumo, when will you come out of seclusion? Bai Yifeng pondered over Mu Jinghong's previous sentence. There seemed to be a different meaning to it. She doesn't represent the Skywheel Mountain? Mu Jinghong had always been the mystery of the Skywheel Mountain. He will come out of seclusion when he reaches foundation establishment. Or, little junior brother will come out of seclusion during the inner sanctum trial. Bai Yifeng said. Come out of seclusion when he reaches foundation establishment? Mu Jinghong's lips curled up imperceptibly, but he changed the topic. It's fine if he doesn't participate in a low-level inner sanctum trial like the 5 wheels. Moreover, the 5 wheels' internal strife is coming. It's hard to say during the trial. Internal strife? Bai Yifeng stared at Mu Jinghong with her big and small eyes. At that moment, she felt that Mu Jinghong was very lofty. She did not refute or deny Mu Jinghong's words, because the luck of the 5 wheels was indeed not very good. Senior Sister Mu, no matter what happens to the 5 wheels, we need a little junior brother in the foundation establishment stage. The Windwheel might be bigger than the 5 wheels. After a while, Bai Yifeng said slowly. The Windwheel might be bigger than the 5 wheels. This was an unimaginable sentence. If Sumo heard this, she would probably doubt second senior brother's words even more. However, Mu Jinghong and Bai Yifeng's conversation did not seem to be on the same track. The 9 revolutions of the Windwheel can overturn the universe. What does it mean? Mu Jinghong suddenly asked. You'll know in the future. Bai Yifeng smiled. She would not answer this question at all. Junior Sister Bai, the entire Windwheel Mountain is under your formation, right? Mu Jinghong asked again. Of course. Bai Yifeng said. That's good. Let me test your abilities again. Mu Jinghong's lips curled up, but he suddenly attacked. This time, it was different from when she fought against Han Tian. Mu Jinghong took the initiative to attack. He formed a claw with one hand, and his slender fingers glowed with a white light. The white light was eerie, as if there were thousands of vengeful spirits. It was a sharp and eerie claw. This, Bai Yifeng was not surprised by Mu Jinghong's sudden attack, but by the sorcery she used. Because it was not the 5 wheels' sorcery. Bai Yifeng had learned a lot, and she knew a thing or two about the 5 wheels sorcery. However, She did not know Mu Jinghong's sorcery. However, Bai Yifeng was not afraid. Bai Yifeng only moved slightly, and Mu Jinghong's claw seemed to have missed. That was because with just a single step, the distance between her and Mu Jinghong was already dozens of feet. Distance reduction. Mu Jinghong sneered. At the same time, he moved and used a strange footwork technique to appear in front of Bai Yifeng in one step. Mu Jinghong used this footwork technique to enter the Windmill Mountain. Bai Yifeng's eyes flashed. Her distance reduction was definitely the best among the 5 wheels. However, such a secret technique was completely useless against Mu Jinghong. Bai Yifeng retreated again. Mu Jinghong was very strong. This was widely recognized by the 5 wheels. However, nobody knew how strong Mu Jinghong really was. Just now, Han Tian's 3 punches were tacitly agreed upon by 7th senior sister. Mu Jinghong was testing the power of the Windmill Mountain, and she wanted to see Mu Jinghong's capabilities. Bai Yifeng knew what Han Tian's 3 punches were like. In the entire 5 wheels, only the elders and leaders of the completion level could take it head-on. However, they would not be as calm as Mu Jinghong. Even if Mu Jinghong used a treasure in the end, it was enough to prove her strength. Wind, come! Bai Yifeng was shocked, but she did not panic. She waved her hand. Instantly, a hurricane came from the Windmill Mountain and headed straight for Mu Jinghong. The hurricane was dozens of feet long and looked like a goat's horn. Black light was faintly discernible, and there seemed to be talismans flashing inside. Then, it split into 3 and approached Mu Jinghong from 3 different directions. However, Mu Jinghong only stared coldly at the 3 hurricanes. Strangely, the hurricanes stopped spinning 10 feet away from Mu Jinghong. Bai Yifeng was startled. Did Mu Jinghong have a treasure on him? Rain, gather. Bai Yifeng immediately changed her move, her hand seals changing. Amidst the black wind, talismans lit up and shot out thousands of black raindrops. The black raindrops were like sharp swords that headed straight for Mu Jinghong. However, Mu Jinghong formed a hand seal and bent down slightly. Then, his entire body emitted thousands of rays of white light that made him look like the sun. Break! Mu Jinghong hissed. Sizzle, 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 in the air, the thousands of black raindrops turned into smoke under the white light. Mu Jinghong took a step forward. Her footsteps were several times faster than Bai Yifeng's. Swoosh, a black longsword appeared in Mu Jinghong's hand. The longsword was extremely thin and soft. It was like a puddle of black water that transformed into a sword. At this moment, the sword was right in front of Bai Yifeng's eyebrows. If Mu Jinghong breathed out her spiritual energy, Bai Yifeng would die under the sword. However, Bai Yifeng only giggled. Chapter 107. Mu Jinghong's sword was pointed at Bai Yifeng's glabella. However, when she heard Bai Yifeng's words, she could not help but look down. She saw that there were 2 balls of strange black wind gathering around her feet at some point in time. Within the balls of wind, green light intertwined. The green light was like a thread that spread out like a spider's web. The entire 9th peak of Windmill Mountain was covered in green light that intertwined with each other. It was a huge formation that was connected to the other 8 peaks of Windmill Mountain. Boundless spiritual energy danced on the green light. It could bind and kill everything at any time. Everything seemed to be under Bai Yifeng's control. Mu Jinghong was like a fish in the net. What formation is this? Mu Jinghong's tone was calm. He did not sheathe his sword. Green Qilin Absolute Death Formation. Bai Yifeng smiled. When did you set up the formation? Why didn't I know about it? Mu Jinghong asked. Senior sister Mu has been in the formation ever since you entered the 9th peak. Why would I need to set up another formation? Bai Yifeng said. There are formations everywhere in Windmill Mountain. This is just a change. What if I kill you now? Mu Jinghong asked. Of course I will die. Bai Yifeng said calmly. However, you will not be able to leave this place alive. Green Qilin absolute death is not to kill the enemy, but to perish together with them. Oh? Not bad. Mu Jinghong's lips curled up. With a thought, the mysterious black sword slowly retracted. In the end, it completely disappeared, as if it had fused into Mu Jinghong's arm. Bai Yifeng was shocked. What kind of sword was that? At the same time, the ball of wind and green light under Mu Jinghong's feet disappeared. It was a draw. Mu Jinghong said. Actually, I lost. Bai Yifeng's eyes flashed with surprise. She shook her head with a bitter smile. Mu Jinghong had retracted his sword too easily. Moreover, the speed at which the ball of wind and green light retreated seemed to have sped up. Are all windmill disciples so fearless of death? Mu Jinghong asked meaningfully. Who doesn't fear death? If you're not afraid of death, why cultivate longevity? Why ask about the great Tao? Bai Yifeng smiled. However, there are many things that are more important than living. Only death can make everything perfect. Bai Yifeng's eyes suddenly brightened. Seventh senior sister's big and small eyes had a pair of watery eyes, which were actually very beautiful. Could it be that Windmill's fourth disciple died for something more important than living? Mu Jinghong asked. Bai Yifeng shook her head but did not answer Mu Jinghong's question. Senior apprentice Sister Mu, our windwheel lineage has always been preparing to die. He only wanted to die a worthy death. For the sake of the inheritance, we can all die. A worthy death. Mu Jinghong pondered. Is the wind wheel really bigger than the 5 wheels? Mu Jinghong looked at Bai Yifeng with a playful smile, as though it was a test question. It's bigger than 5 wheels. Bai Yifeng nodded. Bigger than white bones? Bigger than white bones. But where is the wind wheel? Have you seen the wind wheel before? Mu Jinghong asked again. The wind wheel. Bai Yifeng hesitated for a while, then said slowly, The wind wheel is in my Tao heart. The wind wheel is in the Tao heart of all wind wheel lineages. Bai Yifeng looked at Mu Jinghong with determination. At that moment, there was a strange glow on Bai Yifeng's face. At that moment, Mu Jinghong frowned. Then, there was a hint of respect and solemnity in her expression. Junior apprentice Sister Bai, what if your pursuit is a dream one day? What if the wind wheel doesn't exist? As long as the dream is vigorous. Bai Yifeng did not hesitate. Mu Jinghong did not ask any more questions. Then, Mu Jinghong turned to look at the Windwheel Cosmic Cave and said meaningfully, The Windwheel Mountain is indeed a good place. Sumo's choice was not wrong. You have passed my test. Remember, if the 5 realms are in chaos, your Windwheel lineage just needs to guard the Windwheel Mountain. With that, Mu Jinghong slowly walked out of the Windwheel Mountain. Senior apprentice Sister Mu, Bai Yifeng called out, and Mu Jinghong stopped in his tracks. However, Bai Yifeng's expression was slightly hesitant. Senior apprentice Sister Mu, you are not a 5th wheel cultivator. Where are you from? Mu Jinghong did not turn around. Who said I am not a 5th wheel cultivator? Mu Jinghong retorted, but I am just a passerby. The limit of 5 realms is about to be reached. Mu Jinghong looked around the Windwheel Mountain. You are asking me where I am from? Then I will come up from the White Bone Wind Wheel. With that, Mu Jinghong did not stop and walked forward slowly. You came up from the White Bone Wind Wheel? Bai Yifeng smiled bitterly. That was because she did not understand that sentence. Where was the White Bone Wind Wheel? When Sumo comes out of seclusion, ask him to come to Sky Wheel Mountain to see me. Those were Mu Jinghong's last words. Also, Junior Apprentice Sister Bai, you should change your face. This face is too ugly. Mu Jinghong's figure finally disappeared into the night. Bai Yifeng could sense that Mu Jinghong had left the Windwheel Mountain in a few steps. Bai Yifeng stood in the air in a daze, deep in thought. It seemed that Mu Jinghong would not come easily. That was because she had completely acknowledged the Windwheel lineage. 7th Senior Apprentice Sister, I did not let her step onto the 9th peak. I definitely did not disturb junior apprentice brother. Han Tian looked at 7th senior apprentice sister and mumbled. Yes. 7th senior apprentice sister turned to look at Han Tian and smiled. 8th junior apprentice brother, you did well. If there is a next time, do it again. Hee hee. Han Tian was very happy to hear 7th senior apprentice sister's praise. He could not help but scratch his head. But that Mu Jinghong is very powerful. It's okay. If you can't handle him, I will come. 7th senior apprentice sister said gently. Alright. 7th senior apprentice sister, don't worry. I will definitely not let anyone disturb junior apprentice brother. Go back and sleep. Han Tian said naively. Alright. 8th junior, be careful. Bai Yifeng did not say anything else. This was because everything had been arranged beforehand. Mu Jinghong's arrival was also within her expectations, following which Bai Yifeng also gradually disappeared into the night. However, she did not return to her 7th peak. Instead, she headed in the direction of the 4th peak. The limit of the 5 wheels is up. Han Tian muttered those words and also hid in the darkness. 7th senior apprentice sister had given him the task of protecting Sumo. He had to complete it conscientiously. At this moment, Sumo was fully focused on her cultivation in the cave abode. However, a huge storm was brewing in the 5 wheels. It was a storm that had accumulated for tens of thousands of years. Earth Wheel Mountain, Cave Abode. In Zhongmo, the first seed of the Earth Wheel realm, once again opened the secret door in his cave. Then, he followed the long flight of stairs to the center of the earth. The cave abode under the cave was rather damp and gloomy. It did not see sunlight all year round. However, there were glowing crystals embedded in the stone walls at regular intervals. However, the light they emitted was a little dim like an oil lamp. In Zhongmo walked very carefully. At the end of the cave abode was a large, solitary cave. It was only large relative to the passageway. In fact, it was only 3 to 4 square meters. In fact, it was more like a dungeon. It was also dark and damp. An old man was sitting cross-legged on a huge rock in the cave abode. That old man's face was deathly pale, and his hair was white. His face was haggard, and he seemed to be on the verge of death. At this moment, his eyes were slightly closed and he was meditating. Chapter 108. In Zhongmo pays his respects to Patriarch. The voice of the Earth Wheel Chief Monk was extremely respectful. Rise. The white-haired old man didn't open his eyes and said calmly, Is there any progress? When will you bring me the soul-gathering pearl? Patriarch, the soul-gathering pearl is definitely still with the Wind Wheel faction. I have already made arrangements. 1 month from now, it will be the trial that happens once every 5 years for the inner disciples. I will take this opportunity to kill the 9th disciple of the Wind Wheel faction and retrieve the soul-gathering pearl. 1 month from now. The white-haired old man sneered and said gloomily, Chief In, I can't wait. You only have 27 days. Patriarch, this. In Zhongmo's expression changed slightly. It seemed like he didn't expect time to be so tight. Say no more. The white-haired old man didn't open his eyes. The 5 wheels formation has been broken. I can no longer absorb the power of the 5 wheels to break the restriction. The heaven, fire, water and wind soul-gathering pearls have been retrieved. Now I only lack the earth wheel vein soul-gathering pearl. The altar is broken. The soul-gathering pearl must be retrieved within 100 days. Otherwise, the soul-gathering pearl will lose its value. Only when the 5 wheels are gathered will I be able to break the restriction. If one of them is missing, everything will be in vain. Do you understand? Disciple understands. In Zhongmo nodded his head deeply. If I go out, it will be the time when the 5 wheels are revived. With a raise of my hand, I can suppress the Slekton sect. Then, I will head south to the central continent and recreate the glory of the 5 wheels. By then, you will be the owner of the 5 wheels. I will definitely grant you the opportunity to become a nascent soul. Thank you, Patriarch. In Zhongmo clenched his fist and made up his mind. This was his best chance. Otherwise, the Sky Wheel Mountain would never allow him to make a comeback. Yang Tianxiao wasn't easy to deal with. 10,000 years. It's been too long. The white-haired old man sighed helplessly. My lifespan has reached its limit. Don't worry, Patriarch. I will fulfill your wish at all costs and let the 5 wheels regain its former glory. In Zhongmo's eyes flashed with determination. The white-haired old man nodded his head, but he looked even older. 5 wheels. The night was quiet, but many undercurrents were surging. Mu Jinghong walked out of the Windwheel Mountain. His face was pale, as if he had been seriously injured. After that, she rode the wind and directly returned to the immortal's abode on the rushing Heaven Wheel Mountain. In the darkness of the night, there were actually many eyes staring at Mu Jinghong outside Windwheel Mountain. None of them dared to enter the Windwheel Mountain. The windmill formation blocked everything. No one knew what had happened after Mu Jinghong had entered the Windwheel Mountain. However, Mu Jinghong seemed to have returned injured. This was the result seen by the eyes in the dark night. This shocked them quite a bit. However, as soon as Mu Jinghong returned to his heavenly wheel cave dwelling, he smiled coldly and his expression returned to normal. Then, she opened her hand, and another jade slip appeared in her palm. She crushed it. The teleportation circle appeared again. Mu Jinghong gathered his divine telekinesis and formed a white paper crane with a skull printed on it. The paper crane gently flapped its wings and directly entered the teleportation array, disappearing in an instant. 5 wheels, white bones. It's time for everything. Mu Jinghong looked at the disappearing paper crane with no sadness or joy in his eyes. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, on a teleportation array in the Slekton sect, a paper crane gradually appeared. The one guarding the array was the girl in white who had chased after Sumo. As soon as the paper crane appeared, her expression changed. That was because the paper crane represented the top secret of the Slekton sect. No one could open it except the sect leader. Therefore, she kept the paper crane and went straight to the White Bones Hall. Sky Wheel Mountain, the first seat's cave dwelling. Yang Tianxiao was sitting cross-legged in the cave residence alone. In front of him was a chessboard. There were 19 lines, and the black and white were like stars. The first seat of the Heavenly Wheel sect was playing alone. At this moment, the black and white were fighting, and the murderous aura was soaring. The white aura was like a dragon, and it locked the black pieces tightly. The black pieces struggled left and right, and it was on its deathbed. At this moment, Yang Tianxiao was holding a white piece in his hand, but he did not put it down. The situation on the board seemed to be able to kill the black piece as soon as he put the white piece down. However, Yang Tianxiao was multitasking, and he faintly felt that the black piece seemed to be a dead end, but it was hiding a chance of survival. There was a piece in the distant star position, and it was lying in ambush. In a dead end, the black piece contained the power to slay a dragon. That black piece had already been set up. At this moment, it had become the key to the battle. Dragon kill or dragon slay. It was often decided in a moment. Idle. Yang Tianxiao frowned slightly. Such an expression rarely appeared on his face. At least, no one in the Sky Wheel Mountain had ever seen Yang Tianxiao frown. The first seat of the Heavenly Wheel sect always had victory in his hands, and he gave people absolute confidence. However, at this moment, a few thoughts flashed through Yang Tianxiao's mind. He already knew that Mu Jinghong had returned from the Wind Wheel Mountain injured. Playing chess, forging Xin. Between black and white, he often had epiphanies. Yang Tianxiao held the white piece in his hand, and then stared at the black piece for a long time without saying anything. What was the meaning of this game? Yang Tianxiao's gaze focused, and the white piece in his hand finally fell. However, the white piece didn't fall into any empty space, but directly smashed the black piece in the distant star position. The black and white pieces scattered. This game of chess could no longer be played. Then, Yang Tianxiao sneered and rose to his feet. He moved and disappeared from the cave abode, then headed straight for the ancestral spirit peak. At the moment, the 7 nascent soul realm cultivators of the ancestral spirit peak all had their own thought. Almost all of them had their own faction to support. However, the 5 wheels maintained a basic balance. However, this balance could be broken by just one chess piece. There was a magical sand table in front of the blind ancestor, who had the highest cultivation level. The sand table showed the geography of the entire bone continent in the northwest. The northwest continent only took up a quarter of the bone continent. The 5 wheels was in the south, and the Slekton sect was in the north. These 2 immortal sects were the rulers of the northern part of the bone continent. The sand table was made of celestial sand, and it showed the mountains, rivers, geography, and the sect's luck. However, the chi on the sand table had started to change 2 months ago. The chi on the 5 wheels was weakening bit by bit. Meanwhile, the chi on the Slekton sect was growing stronger, and it was faintly red. It even seemed to be suppressing the 5 wheels from the south. That was definitely not a good sign. What made the blind ancestor even more solemn was that the chi of the 5 wheels sect was rather scattered. It could even be said that it was in disorder. It was like a plate of loose sand. The chi on the Slekton sect was like a sword that was about to be unsheathed. It was like a hot knife through butter. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.